6:02 in the Rose City. Time for Dirt and Sprague on Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan. Happy hump day, everybody. Schultze, good morning.
What's going on, man?
How we doing? How we feeling?
Tired but good, ready to go.
Tired?
It's just like I was on maybe a 3-hour nap. That's what happens when I do these quick turnarounds. It almost becomes more of a nap than an actual sleep. So, but we're ready to go. I digress.
You said you did primetime yesterday. They're done at 7. What did you go to bed at, like 1?
Probably midnight, and then had trouble. Like I woke up. You know when you have that midnight?
What are you, a late night talk show viewer? What are you doing, midnight?
I'm a degenerate, baby. And then I woke up and tried to have that like late night or midnight poop. That ruins your sleep.
What?
You eat something, and then all of a sudden you like wake up out of a dead sleep. Your tummy's growling, and you're like, I got to get to the toilet. That was me.
So I thankfully don't have that problem very often.
That's good.
Well, it is and it isn't. It makes for my day very interesting in that department. It's like, hey, you're up at 4 to get your stomach going. Your system's moving. All right, you did it. Then I drink water every morning, like 25 ounces of water, first thing. Stomach's moving again. Oh, no, we got to go again. Oh, well, we got to go to work. Now we have coffee. Oh, no, we got to go again. We go wait 3 hours. It's a awful process. But I don't have to wake up at midnight or 1 to do it. I just do it at 4:15-ish.
I'm not usually doing that, but I think it just depends on like the burrito that you eat. You know, sometimes it's the correct place. Sometimes you eat the wrong burrito. And I think we just, my wife and I chose the wrong location, and the burritos weren't as good as they normally are because tummy wasn't feeling it last night.
Sometimes the best food, though, still makes the tummy rumble a little bit. You know what I mean?
No, that's fair. And I don't know. I like cheese on my burrito, so that probably didn't help.
God. Are you lactose?
No, at least not that I know of, but maybe if I all of a sudden stopped eating dairy, like I just wouldn't be chubby and I'd be so much healthier. So technically, like I could be, I just don't know yet.
I sometimes say lactose, like the bread.
Well, I always used to think
lactose.
I thought that was all like one word, like lactose intolerant. Like when I was a kid.
Oh, you thought the intolerant was attached to the lactose?
Yeah, like lactose intolerant.
I kind of say it that way. I knew they were separate, but I would say it that way.
As a kid, you never understand like certain lyrics on the radio, certain big words like that. That was one of them.
Schultze, I think I've reached a point in my life where I'm comfortably telling you I've become a bit of a curmudgeon in some ways.
Old man on his lawn. Huh?
A little old man on his lawn. What's wrong with these kids?
Music was only good in my day.
I'm 37. That's not that old. Nope. I know, but I feel old sometimes. And one thing that makes me feel curmudgeon-y, I don't know if you've seen these things lately on the internet. I have, and it kind of bothers me. Have you seen this Apple Pro Vision thing? Have you heard about this?
I have.
So Apple's trying to do, you remember Google glasses? You remember those back in the day? I was in college when these were coming out, and there was a photo of, I forget who it was. I want to say Jay-Z, but I don't think it was Jay-Z. Somebody like Jay-Z was rocking them. And they were just a pair of glasses. They look like sunglasses. And in the sunglasses, like the inside, there was another little screen in your glasses that you could look at and like view the internet or use as maps.
Everyone was supposed to be wearing these by like 2020.
Nobody.
These were supposed to take over the world.
Not a soul bought them. They are one of the biggest flop products to ever exist. I remember seeing a preview for them and thinking, I had a buddy that was all in on everything new. If it came out and it was technology, it was going to be amazing. And I remember seeing it with him, and I go, nobody's buying those. And he goes, oh, you're an idiot. Everybody will, man. You can watch something as you walk. I'm like, first of all, that screen looks tiny. Second of all, I don't want to watch something as I walk.
Yeah, what the hell are you doing?
That's kind of what I was saying. This Apple Pro Vision, I saw this first with Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer, who does like NBA coverage. He put out a video of what Apple Pro Vision will look like if you sit at home with it and you watch basketball.
Yeah.
So Apple Pro Vision, for those who don't know, it's basically like the Oculus. It's a headset that you put on, and it takes you to, you know, 3-dimensional, or you watch TV or you watch games, for example. And I just thought watching that video, he was like, this is awesome. And I'm like, yeah. if you're a lonely loser, like, what are you doing? Why would you want to watch a game with goggles on? And second of all, it gives you these options to keep real life stats up at the same time as the game and the ability to watch another game. And I just look at this and I'm like, you're not watching anything. You're watching 3 things at once, which means you're watching nothing. Why would you care about seeing the real-time stats? Let the game play out. We'll see what the numbers say. And guess what? The numbers are going to change. You know why? Ebbs and flows of sports. You don't need to be an analytical geek to know that. That's just what sports has kind of always been.
You know why the stats have to be up, baby, for all those betting degenerates like me and like you. Come on.
Yeah, but look, I'm not a great gambler. We make fun of me every week. I can gamble in real time without needing stats in one of my eyes and the game in the other.
Speak for yourself.
Well, okay, this is up your alley, then you're really going to love the curmudgeon-y rant I'm going on here. They released another version of it, and it was somebody walking, and it had like a Google map or whatever map in front of him. And so, like, you see the perspective is you walking, but in your sight line, blocking most of your path, is a map showing like, hey, turn left here, walk 800 feet, turn right. And I'm like, why do we want to live like this? We're already dealing with an isolation problem. Now we want to put goggles on to watch sports? Could you imagine inviting a buddy over? Like, hey, man, big Blazer game tonight. Want to come over? Sure. Comes over, and you say, all right, man, it's on TV, and you put your goggles on? What a weird social interaction that must be. Or putting them on so you can walk properly somewhere. What happened to looking at a map and memorizing like 4 steps? Hey, turn left on this road.
I can't do that.
You can't do that?
I'm kidding. I think a lot of people can, but they choose not to in this day and age.
That's how we did it back in the day, baby. I was raised on that. I went into a random gas station that I found off I-5 once when I was 18, and I didn't really have a cell phone. And I entered a gas station, and they printed out for me a map from, what was it? It was, what was the thing we used to use back in the day?
It's called MapQuest.
MapQuest, thank you. They printed me out a 2-page MapQuest thing that I needed to continue on my journey. That was at best, that was the internet for me. Other than that, it was like, you got to memorize like 10 steps. And I never had a problem with it. And I feel like more people were directionally right back in that time, whereas now, man, if your map's not working, there's a panic in your car. But it said go this way, and now it's turning me around, or it stalls or delays. I feel like people are more lost than they've ever been. And so I see this vision, and I'm like, God, we need to get rid of this stuff. This is not a good direction for us to go. So that's my curmudgeon-y hill. I'm tired of these things. Who wants to wear goggles to walk around? No, thank you. And I don't need them to watch sports either. I'll just watch it on my big screen.
I'm like halfway in the camp that you're in here. I feel like that this is kind of, we're still progressing technology-wise to a point where, new shiny things do seem like they are needed by some people. Unfortunately, this Vision Pro from Apple, which essentially is like an Oculus, but it's different because you can see the world around you. So you're supposedly able to interact, unlike, I think, most of the other VR headsets out there, like Meta's, whatever they're called, the VR headset is. Like, you can actually still see, like you're talking about, walking around with a map and then walk into the world, not really running into things. You see everything on the cameras, and like you're there, and they can see you, at least a representation of your eyes.
But how else I can see you? With not wearing my goggles. I'm looking at you right now. I don't need a big ass thing of goggles on my face.
Nah, but it's more interesting, I think, for the people that want to get like a lot of work done at once. If I'm alone, not with people.
Sure.
If I'm alone, it's a great tool. But if I'm with others, then yeah, you're just isolating yourself and you're stupid. But that does.
I think you become addicted to it even when you are alone. You're like, well, I got to put these on. I got to put these on. I got to put these on. And then you're like, oh, I'm putting them on every day.
I mean, they're expensive, man. I don't know if you saw
Are they? I didn't see the price. I assume.
The entry price is $34.99, I think, on these things. And that's just the lowest amount of gigabytes for storage. So if you wanted like a terabyte, you're going up towards, I think, 3 or 3,500.
Are you interested in buying this? You seem like you're kind of in between like my view and then like the Pro Vision view.
I'm not going to buy this one. I think 2 or 3 iterations down the road, because they do.
The prices will have to drop,
They
right?
have to, and this is kind of a yearly or bi-yearly thing. You would assume they kind of innovate every year with the watch and with their phones. So I hope by 2026, 27 maybe, they have a second or third version of this out that's like under $2,000. And at that point, the battery life will be longer than 2 hours. That's this new piece of technology. Like here's where I'll go with you on old man, get the hell off my lawn guy.
Sure.
You don't have to be the first person out there that has the newest piece of technology. Usually, now that we've seen it, I mean, you go back in the iPhone first iteration that Steve Jobs introduced, now it was terrible. Obviously, we have the benefit of hindsight, but usually, even beyond that, if you look past like the first iteration of the Macintosh, well, the second one got better. The first iteration of like Windows 95, Windows 98 was faster. It was better.
Sure.
Implementing the second and third generation of technology usually seems to be a lot easier, and you end up wasting your time waiting in line to be the first one to have it, and it ends up with a lot of frustration, like, well, the next generation of tech, that'll help me. So no, I'm not in on this. Not yet.
Imagine the first people that got super jacked and bought those Google glasses.
Oh my God. I think only 200,000 or 300,000 of those sold.
It was like
abysmal.
Yeah, it was really bad. Like compared to what they thought it would be, they thought that, well, you were right. They thought that was going to take over the world. And it didn't even sniff it. The other one that I thought of was, I love having a big screen. I mean, who doesn't?
Yeah.
Do you remember that very brief moment in our world where the curved TV, the curved flat screen was like the thing, and it like stuck out on the right and left, and then like curved, it bowed in?
I love that you bring this up.
Do you remember that TV?
Yeah,
and everybody saying, this is that you got, look at the angles. It's the way the picture looks. You got to buy this TV. And I remember looking at it at a Best Buy once. Me and my wife were buying a TV. Mm-hmm. And I was like, everybody screams and rants and raves about this TV. And I just looked at it and I went, that ain't me. We're just going traditional flat screen. And I got a regular flat screen. I think maybe less than 8 months later, it was basically one of the more overrated products out. Like nobody was buying it. It's kind of like 3D. Like 3D TVs. That was also supposed to be a big deal. It was like, oh, it's going to feel like LeBron James is dribbling in my kitchen. And you'd be like, not really.
I was just talking with my wife about this, like literally 4 days ago. I love that you bring this up because Super Bowl Sunday is coming up. So, TVs are on the brain.
Oh,
and
yeah.
There's a lot of great deals out there still. And I'm like, gosh, should I upgrade to a QLED in one of these rooms? I don't know. It's cheap enough. But yeah, she was asking about those curved TVs and if they were still a thing. And it was like, no, those went out of style very quick. They were expensive for no reason.
They were so damn expensive too.
It added maybe a quarter of an inch of viewing angle
there
from
was
the
some
side.
Weird, there was a weird element of the way it was.
Something stupid.
It was designed. It was supposed to help. And I mean, you could really make an argument. I've been curmudgeon-y for a very long time on some of this stuff. But I just think there's so much overreaction. Oh, this is going to be amazing. It's like,
you just need a flip phone and a tube TV.
I'm not kidding you. This is a dead honest thing. Maybe a week ago, I turned to my wife and I go, I'm thinking about getting a flip phone. I'm just kind of done with this.
Yeah, go into a dumb phone. I like that.
No real apps. I haven't done it yet, obviously. I contemplate it though from time to time.
Yeah. There's a world in which I think that we can have an iPad or a laptop on us, and when we need to go into the internet world,
I got to work laptop. I'm good.
Exactly, and then we don't have to have it on our phones. We can just be removed a little bit. Which I don't know. Thinking back to high school when I didn't have the internet at my fingertips, yeah, I think it was a little healthier.
I think more people were a lot happier. It's my big curmudgeon-y thing lately is talking about how bad technology is. It's great in a lot of ways, obviously.
Well, there's a movement of people going with dumb phones now. I mean, they literally produce phones that don't have as many features now for a growing section of people that are like, screw this. I just want to be more connected and use my phone for a little texting.
Let me get my BlackBerry back. I like to email and text. That's all I'll do.
Oh, there's this.
I loved the BlackBerry, man. I was big on the BlackBerry. I'll show you how douchey I was. I was BlackBerry case.
No, you weren't.
No, it's dead honest truth. In college, I had a BlackBerry case on my hip and it was like the shirt was under it, so it was very prominent on my
You
hip.
really are old man.
Dude, well, back in this was probably 2008. 2009?
Really? Young guys were no. Text into the Vancouver Ford text line if in '08 in your 20s you were carrying around, unless for your job, sure, but just normally, tell me if you were carrying around a phone on your hip on a belt, because I'm pretty sure only guys over the age of 56 did that.
Oh, okay. I'm going to put that up because I disagree with you.
Okay.
Do you remember the Sidekick?
But that
The
was a
side
pocket
flip
thing.
out.
Yeah.
No, dude. No, the real ones had the case for the Sidekick. They wanted you to know they had the Sidekick, and then they would always bust it out when they were at the mall or at a social setting. They'd lean against the wall and they flip it up, and they look like they were.
It looks like
they're either
power
drug
morpher.
dealers or they're super important. It was always like a debate of like drug dealer or important. That's what we used to debate in college: drug dealer or debate. Or a super big deal guy. I don't know. But they always had the case. They always had the Sidekick out. That's why, yes, it is old manny to think about it that way. But for a very brief moment in the 08-09 era, cell phone cases were kind of a thing. They were kind of a thing. And then like a year later, the BlackBerry died and the iPhone exploded, and me and my wife still miss that phone, actually.
I do love the BlackBerry. Rest in peace to the QWERTY keyboard. There's actually an attachment.
I love the little ball scroller.
Oh, I miss that too.
I loved that one, man.
There's an attachment for the iPhone that I'm looking at that adds like a physical keyboard to it. Makes it a little longer. But
Sure.
I'm definitely down. It gives you your full screen on the iPhone. And if I don't go to like a phone only with texting and with calling, I'll probably just add the keyboard to my iPhone.
I think the only thing I'm missing from this segment is a pair of glasses sitting at the end of my nose.
Let
me tell you what it was back in the day.
Well, that and very tech nerd like too. It's like we just got back from CES in Vegas, like 2024, before they got ready for the Super Bowl.
Yes, exactly. It is a loaded show today. We've got two guests, dude. Two guests.
Woo.
Tyler Fulgham of ESPN's betting, ESPN Bet, is going to join us at 8 a.m. And we'll talk with Eric Eager of Sumer Sports. He does a lot of analytical dives into football. He's a good friend of the show. So he's going to join us at 7:30 today. Did you do a stat or story?
Oh, today is Wednesday.
Did Swag email? I don't know what Swag tells you or doesn't tell you.
I should know. He just asked me if I needed anything, but I can throw together a stat or story.
I got NFL Zig or Zag for you. I'm going to throw some zigging and zagging out for you.
I love it.
But let's get it going. Dirt and Sprague, good to be with you on this beautiful hump day. Let's get it going on the Fan. All right, welcome back in. I always think the show cannot get any older than just having dirt on it every day, and now dirt is out, and I feel like I've stepped up into that old role and filled the void of being the old curmudgeon, and here I am. Although there are people on the text line, the Vancouver Ford text line, kind of agreeing. Like, some of this stuff is just kind of stupid. Hey, let's put some goggles on your face and then just block entire views with multiple screens. Like, Somebody else referencing this. I wanted to finish this. I started it, the 60 Minutes gambling piece. And they're finding that, like, young men are obviously the most heavy of gamblers with sports gambling on the apps. Some of these people are gambling like financial aid money.
Oh, my God.
Like big sums of FAFSA money.
Stuff that is not supposed to be gambled. Like money that is not set aside for fun or entertainment. Stuff that you need.
Yeah, but I'm somebody who had FAFSA in college, and happy to say, paid my loans off. I'm not going to pretend that I didn't use some of that financial aid money for my own personal benefit.
Of course not. We all do. A little bit.
You're only supposed to spend it on school and books.
Well, yeah, but we got to eat.
Cash that check, homie. Schultze, what's going on? How are we feeling about our old friend in Milwaukee? I watched I watched most of the game between Milwaukee and Phoenix last night on TNT. Dame didn't play, sat it out. The Bucks lost. They are 1-4 with Doc Rivers. 1-4. They fired a coach who was second in the East, and I didn't think he was a very good coach. I thought he had some major red flags before the season started, but they fired that guy, and he was second in the East, and that wasn't good enough. It was too clunky. It was too weird. They didn't like him. Then they brought in Doc Rivers, and now he's 1-4. Dame Lillard has a piece come out by Vince Goodwill of Yahoo Sports. Did you see that piece?
No, I did not. Fill me in.
It basically, it sums up Dame. I wouldn't use the word, I'm using this very lightly. You read it and you kind of come across as like, is Dame depressed? And you kind of wouldn't fault him, right? He's going through a major thing off the court with his ex-wife. That's not something that I care that much about, but going through the process
is not easy.
No, it's certainly not easy. His kids don't live with him. He's in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And yeah, he's a millionaire and he's got the greatest house. Like, Meringue had told me he moved into where Drew Holiday was staying when he was in Milwaukee, because that's what they do. We do that in this city too. Couple mansions, in and out. Hey, you got traded for him. Okay, I'm out. All right, I'm in. And he's got a big house, but it's Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And the piece just highlights like how alone he feels, how like tough this is, not being able to see his kids physically every day. Like he FaceTimes them.
You could almost see that with the interview with Malika Andrews on ESPN before the Blazers game too. I feel like just that the look in his face, Dame is, we've all seen him for the last 11 years here in Portland, very happy, very jovial, but you just kind of you can tell when somebody's not 100%, and you just don't feel like, because of all this stuff going on, that he's 100%. So agreed, there's a lot going on off the court for him, and it's along with what's going on in Milwaukee. I know you're going to get into it, but it's definitely not concerning, but at least enough to make you raise your eyes, like, what's going on?
Well, I will continue to say this. I'm going to bet on Milwaukee, and this could age like very warm milk left out in the sun. But I'm going to take the guy that looks like the biggest killer in the league right now. Giannis is doing things on a nightly basis. I've watched 90% of their games, and not like first quarter to fourth, but like pretty good chunks of most of their games. This dude is doing things that you drop him in any era and he's winning a title. Nobody would have an answer for a guy like that. But the league has evolved and these bigs are expanding and more athletic and whatnot. He's still a killer. I will bet on Milwaukee. But what I think you're seeing with Dame is all the off-court stuff, the family dynamic, living in a new city, kind of being alone in that way. And I said this before he was traded, and I'm gonna kind of double down on it because I think it's kind of proven right. You know why it got so messy? When it got into the summer with Dame and the Blazers, very well could say, well, the Goodwin agent, he came out and demanded only the Heat. Yeah, that's part of it. That's sure part of it. I think the other part is they didn't handle that trade right because he didn't want to be traded. the franchise basically strong-armed him into doing that. He didn't have a choice. They would have gladly let him be Malcolm Brogdon on this team this year, but he's Damian Lillard. He wants to win a title, and they clearly were not going to put the chips in the middle, as they told us exactly a year ago. We're going to put our chips in the middle and win around Dame. That wasn't what they did, and so they put him in a position where it's like, okay, well, you draft a 19-year-old point guard? Okay, I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. And so he asked for a trade. He didn't want to do that. And I think what you're seeing is a guy that's like, I want to win. He wants to win. His numbers aren't awful, but they're not where they were. But you don't expect him to be exactly the same. But constantly, night in, night out, when he plays and when they lose, Dame's a bum. Dame's a bum. Dame's a bum. Because Giannis has won. And that's kind of the quote, burden of being an athlete. Even though your life is great in a lot of ways, that's kind of the burden professionally, is like, yo, you were brought here to help us win. We lose, and your stats aren't great. This is your fault. And it's just like this combination of stuff. So I'll still bet on Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Doc Rivers, not a great hire to me, but I'm finding it interesting from Portland to kind of keep an eye on and keep tabs on Dame, how the Bucks are doing. They're our Eastern Conference team this year, you know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm a Bucks fan now.
I got a Bucks hat. I should have wore it today knowing I was going to talk about this.
I mean, even as Damian Lillard is gone, I think I've said this more often than not on the air, I am more of a Dame fan than a Blazers fan at this point because of how the organization handled that whole issue. Regarding Doc Rivers, you kind of wonder if the teams turned it off a little bit because they got what they wanted. They got the coach that they weren't really liking fired, and because of that, just kind of human nature to back off a little bit. So because they think that, you know, they won that battle, they're not really ready to fight the next battle. So yeah, 1-4. Hopefully that turns around soon, but they got to start listening to Doc, because it doesn't sound like, I mean, they weren't listening to Adrian Griffin, and I'm wondering if Doc in their minds was brought in just to placate them as opposed to actually coach them, at least from the players' perspective. So I do wonder if they will start to eventually listen to him or not. But when it comes to Dame, it just makes me sad, because I bring up the Malika Andrews interview again on ESPN that he did before the Blazers-Bucks game last week, just talking about coming back home, you know, and then also talking about how often he was reminded that he's a Milwaukee Buck just on social media. And I think he was kind of taking some pot shots at the people that have been giving him a little crap, you know, saying that he's the reason for their losses. It's like, yo, Damian Lillard played basically with two bigs, LaMarcus Aldridge and Yusuf Nurkic, his whole career, and worked the pick and roll with those two and those two only. Robin Lopez, a little bit thrown in there at the beginning as well. You can't transition immediately after 11 years with one team to a brand new system, and now a new system again, the second time in less than 6 months that he's having to learn and implementing that on the fly in the middle of the season. So what's going to happen? Yeah, him and Brook Lopez, they're not going to look so synced. Him and Giannis aren't going to look so synced. Who's going to take the ball up? Sometimes it seems like Giannis or Dame really aren't sure who should be taking it up at a certain time during the games for the Bucks. So 11 years with a new team, I feel like this is going to happen. And just to say, Dame, it's your fault, that's disingenuous to everyone involved, because it would remove the drama from the situation. You know, they've got a good roster overall. It can't be put on one person. There's many reasons the Bucks aren't succeeding, and Dame trying to implement as a new player is one of them, but only one.
No Brook Lopez for them last couple games. He's been out for personal reasons. We noted how weird the Dame thing seems to kind of be just from an aesthetic standpoint. Brook comes back, Dame plays. He didn't play last night. I still think Milwaukee can figure it out, but keeping tabs on it, it's I got a little sad for him reading that Vince Goodwill piece. It's just like, dude, all on Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Be like, it's probably not the greatest place to be.
But he's from Cali, right? Not really used to the cold weather either. So this is probably
it's more an isolation thing. Like he's friends with his teammates, but they're not there all the time. And like your kids, I mean, he has 3 children. When you have to live in Milwaukee and then you travel, and it's like, hey, how do you see your kids? I FaceTime them.
And that cold weather, though, as somebody that's lived in Boston away from here for 11 months, you know, out of 1 year, it's tough when you're in the snow. Like I'm saying, I'm saying the cold, it makes a difference, because the isolation, you know, maybe necessarily being away from your family is one thing, but also just looking outside and it just looks miserable, that definitely also gives you a feeling of isolation.
Let's get into football as the Bucks are struggling along with Doc Rivers 1-4. Let's go to the NFL. This report came out last night. How would we feel about it? Next on The Fan.
This is a Super Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update is brought to you by Crunch Fitness. Memberships as low as $9.99 per month. Find your Crunch time in Portland, Vancouver, and online at crunch.com. First on The Fan, the Portland Trailblazers announcing that Shaden Sharp is going to have to undergo surgery on his core later this week. A timetable for his return is going to be determined after the procedure. Portland has another off day before hosting the NBA worst Detroit Pistons tomorrow night. In the NFL, The Ringer is reporting that the Seattle Seahawks have officially interviewed UCLA head coach Chip Kelly to be their next offensive coordinator. Former Husky offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb has also been linked to that job. Elsewhere, the Los Angeles Chargers hiring Jesse Minter to be their next defensive coordinator. He spent the last 2 seasons at Michigan under new head coach Jim Harbaugh. And according to NFL Network, the team is also finalizing a deal to hire Greg Roman as their next offensive coordinator. He last worked for the Ravens in 2022. And in baseball, the Houston Astros signing second baseman Jose Altuve to a 5-year, $125 million contract extension. The 33-year-old was set to become a free agent at the end of 2024. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. The playoffs, the big game. Watch and wager on all the action at Spirit Mountain Casino. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
The Fan is live on YouTube and Twitch. And now, Window Nation brings you on-demand videos. Watch Window Nation's window into 1080 The Fan.
Save thousands. Be advised, this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance to save thousands on a hot tub and swim spa. Friday through Sunday, Clark County Event Center at the fairgrounds. Save thousands.
One last night, Benjamin Solak of The Ringer. I've referenced his name quite a bit. He is one of my white whales. I have tried very hard to get him on. I just find him very intelligent. He does these YouTube film breakdowns. He writes, he podcasts. He broke some news last night. He got some of it wrong, but he broke some news. I kind of think it's a bit he's doing because he's broken a little bit of news before. He had some Lions news. I think he's a Michigan guy, like he lives in Michigan. And he had some Lions news a while ago, and he called them the loins, not the Lions, the loins. And so I think he's leaning into a bit here. He reported last night that Oregon head coach Chip Kelly was interviewing in Seattle for the offensive coordinator position.
You just said Oregon head coach Chip Kelly.
No, he said Oregon head coach Chip Kelly. And everyone went, yo. And he was like, no, I swear, I put UCLA. And again, I think it's a bit he's doing of just having a little typo and some breaking news because then people highlighted Chip Kelly with the Seahawks and Mike McDonald. How we feel about the old Chipster, huh? How do you think Seahawk fan reacts to the news that Chip Kelly is their offensive play caller?
I mean, I'm not a Seahawk fan, and I'll become a Seahawk fan. I don't know if it's my Chip Kelly bias.
Oh, you're just a lifelong root for Chip everywhere he goes because of the Oregon stuff?
Yeah, I'm still mad that he left Oregon in the first place. I think that if he would have stayed there, he would have had years and years and years of success, and there would have been multiple national championships. But I digress.
Can I ask you something?
We're under Coach Lanning now. It's all good going forward.
Let me ask you something on that real quick. It was certainly lightning at a moment in the bottle that he captured, and he put everything out there of just like, this is how we're doing offense. Mm-hmm. This is how fast we move. You seem kind of confident he wins a title. Not a very strong recruiter.
He had people around him before that, though.
Yeah. It wasn't like he wasn't even recruiting at a Mario level.
No, but
you think he wins a title if he stays at Oregon? I don't know if I'm convinced of that.
I mean, we're talking 10, 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. So in that landscape, yes, I do. But changing now into the way that NAL goes, like, no, obviously not. He would have been passed over because his time simply is done for not wanting to recruit.
He's not a recruiter.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of my thing of like, are you sure he wins a title? I'm not convinced because he doesn't. Okay. He's never cared about recruiting.
I mean, that's his prerogative, but it is also his prerogative to hire people that do. Maybe going forward in this new world of money, you know, the Willie Lyles recruiting lists type of scandals don't really happen as often. So I mean, it's really just a case of he was dealing with stuff that everybody else was. It was just, you know, stuff that was behind closed doors that wasn't really allowed yet. So I'm not really too high on his recruiting.
Let's do this.
But he always
allowed yet.
Allowed, quote unquote. Yeah. Air quotes. You can see that on YouTube. So I'm not really too high on his recruiting, but I don't care because there were people around him that were able to get that done. But yeah, I'm a Chip Kelly offensive guy. And once again, going to Seattle, yeah, it'll make me a Seahawks fan immediately. I would probably not drop my Rams fandom, but I would shift to being a Seahawks supporter because you would
maybe drop fan. You didn't say drop completely, but you would pivot within your own division as a fan of the Rams.
Yeah.
To rooting for the Seahawks over your team because of their offensive coordinator?
Tell me why Chip Kelly is not the perfect offensive coordinator for any NFL team. I don't think that there's a world where he doesn't come in, innovate, and make the offense look way more exciting.
You think he's an innovator still? I don't. I think he's got a good offense. I don't think he's an innovator.
I don't think that he's had the chance in the last 10 years to spend the time while he's a head coach, while he's doing all this extra crap that he doesn't want to do, because he's essentially running a staff of 40 people.
But he was their coordinator at UCLA.
I get it, but how much time is he actually sitting down?
I think all of it based on his recruiting rankings. I don't think he was doing the other coaching stuff. I think all he did was do offense.
I don't know, man. When you're working with guys that it's hard to get a buy-in when you're Chip Kelly in the way that you are. I think that the game has passed him by as a head coach, but as an offensive coordinator, he is still an innovator. He innovated once. I'm not saying he's going to change the entire offense of the NFL. He's not, but he's going to make an offense look more exciting. He's going to take some undervalued weapons and he's actually going to turn them into positives for teams.
I don't know how that. I'm curious how it'd be met in Seattle. I've said this before. I was interning in Seattle when they hired Pete Carroll, and I had to take phones that day. It was like, yo, breaking news. Softy screams in an hour early. Make sure all the show stuff is ready to go. We got Big Carol. And I'm taking all the phone calls, and it was like, hey, this is Mike and Bothell. I can't believe we hired this guy. He's a joke. Hey, this is Steve in Bellevue. Pete Carroll sucks. Like that was most of the phone calls I was taking. Well, that didn't age well. I don't know if the reaction would be quite like that, because McDonald running the defense, I think, makes Seahawks fans certainly feel good. But I said this before. I don't think Chip's an innovator, but I think Chip's offense is good. And he's smart enough where all he has to do is focus on the schematics of offense. There's no recruiting. There's no booster meeting that you got to attend at from 7 to 9 p.m.
None of that extra
You don't
crap.
got to memorize 55 people's names because they gave you, $150,000 donation. None of that. It's all gone. It's like, yo, you're just going to football. That's all you're going to do. Just football. And then you tell us what kind of personnel you're kind of trying to need for your offense. I think it can be fine. The quarterback thing is interesting with Geno. His season not quite what it was. But big news, Chip Kelly might be a Seahawk offensive coordinator with Mike McDonald.
I'm down.
I can't believe you're going to abandon. Then you're not a very strong Rams fan is kind of what I would say to that. It seems like you're like, oh, I'm a Rams fan, but it doesn't seem like you are. You're going to abandon it for a team within your division all because of an OC? Can't you just root for Chip to be good, except against your team, and then still be a Rams fan?
I mean, I'm still going to be a Rams fan, but I struggle with this too because it's like geographically, I feel like I should be a Seahawks fan. Everybody asks me why are you a Rams fan? It's because they were in LA when my dad was a kid.
Oh, you're not the guy that's like, oh, they're the closest. I should root for them. You're that. That's your. Sports fandom?
The sports fandom for me is
they're not our home team.
It's who I'm connected with the most. But my Blazers here in Portland was as a kid who I connected with the most. And then growing up loving the Oregon Ducks. I mean, I have that geographic connection, but at the same time, it is tough because there are other sports fandoms that I do feel like I should hold steady to. But I don't really think that I'm throwing the Rams under the bus by saying, no, I want to shift to root for Chip Kelly because this would be an awesome move. There are people in sports that we all root for, right? There are teams, and then there are specific players and coaches. And Chip, for me, he's just one of those coaches. It's like why Dame going to the Bucks makes me a Bucks fan more than a Blazers fan right now. Same reason. Chip Kelly going to the Seahawks would pique my interest, make my sports pants tight, and make me watch a lot more Seahawks games, for sure.
NFL Zig or Zag is next on The Fan. No, I did not forget to talk about that today. Shaden Sharp with the abdominal injury.
Yeesh.
Gonna have surgery. No timeline of recovery. We'll talk about that. But it's time for NFL Zig or Zag. It is a hump day. Let's zig or zag, Schulte. I got some juicy ones to throw at you. I think we have some NFL bed music for this. I can't remember which one it is, but would have been helpful if Swag sent you an email. There we go. Yeah,
I got you.
Still would have been nice for you to have, like, hey, Schulte, don't forget this.
I mean, I've done the show before.
I know you have.
I should know this by now.
But part of the deal is, like, helping the next person when he steps out for his second job. Let's start for NFL Zig or Zag. Schulte, head coach of the Chiefs, Andy Reid, is going into this game with a .641 career winning percentage and a .610 playoff winning percentage. If he wins Sunday, he has 3 titles, a coach of the year, 2 different teams to a Super Bowl. Zig or Zag, Andy Reid will ride off into the sunset if the Chiefs win.
I'm going to say zig on that. I will take it. He's not addressing the rumors because
He did yesterday. He said...
it's not the time.
It's not today. He said today's not the day.
That's what I'm saying. Not addressing it like he's pushing it off. For me, that's not addressing it. I do think if he gets this Super Bowl win, there's really no reason for him to come back. Although I wish that he would. I want Andy Reid to coach Pat Mahomes for the next 5 to 7 seasons.
I love having Andy Reid in the NFL.
I do, and I wish that he would become the greatest NFL head coach of all time over Bill Belichick. I get it. Bill was great with Tom, but he's kind of a very boring and talk to the trainer and annoying head coach to listen to. So no, I would hope that he zags on this, but I think it's going to be a zig.
Schulte, never in my life did I think we'd find anything as wild as Tom Brady winning the Super Bowl against the greatest show on turf. Sorry to bring it up.
It's okay.
But here we are. Brock Purdy has a chance to win a Super Bowl on Sunday. Zig or Zag, we have not talked enough about Mr. Irrelevant starting in the Super Bowl. Mr. Irrelevant, the dead last pick. I'm going to ask Eager this at 7:30. What is the percentage chances that the last pick of the entire draft is not only a quarterback, but going to be your starter and in year 2 help take the team to the Super Bowl?
I'll say zig. I do think that Brock Purdy needs some more credit here. I understand that the offense is talented for the Niners. We get it. Their weapons are just endless. Their line's good. Their defensive front sets them up for success on the offensive side. They got sacks like galore, 30 to 40 amongst the defensive linemen alone. But Brock is something at least that makes that team go. You think Sam Darnold could be doing this? You think Trey Lance could be doing this? I mean, it's not like they have endless amounts of options that you can just throw out with this offense and it's going to make it work. I don't know. Brock Purdy's awesome. Zig on it. I wish that they would pay him regardless of whether or not they're going to win.
We know Patrick Mahomes is amazing, one of the greatest starts in sports history by an athlete. If the Chiefs win Sunday, they win their 3rd title in 5 years. Schulte, zig or zag, if Mahomes gets his 3rd ring, you will officially believe he can pass Tom Brady with 7. He'd need to win 8 to pass Brady.
He's 26 right now?
Yes. 3rd title in 5 years if they win on Sunday.
Zig.
Boy, you're zigging a lot, aren't you?
I don't know.
You like what I'm putting down? You're not zagging at all.
Well, I don't want to just say that, I hate Pat Mahomes, so that there's no way that this is going to happen. I say zig very carefully because this offense obviously ain't what it used to be. They did win a Super Bowl without Tyreek Hill. However, Travis Kelce is getting older. He has been the main weapon for Pat Mahomes. I guess that's the only question. Can they replace Travis Kelce with another Kelce-like, with another Gronkowski-like tight end that is just the do-all, end-all, be-all for that offense other than your quarterback? If so, I say zig. So I'll add a caveat to this. Zig if they can find a replacement for Travis Kelce.
No, there's no caveat. No, there's no caveat.
All right, well then zig. I'll just stay.
You're going to stay zig. Okay.
I think that he is that good.
God, 8 rings would be insane.
It is, but
8 in football? Like that. I'd have to, I think naturally just zag because football is football, but 3-5 it's just an insane start to a career.
Even in the NFL of parity right now,
Yeah.
6 straight AFC championships.
You're going to pick them next year to win the AFC. I don't care who the coach or even where Kelsey is. You're going to pick them because 15 is going to scare you too much.
Exactly.
Final one for you. Kyle Shanahan's had a ton of success so far as the Niner coach. 4 NFC title games in 5 seasons. It's his second Super Bowl appearance. If the Niners fall, zig or zag, Schultze, he won't win a Super Bowl as the 49ers head coach.
I'm going to say zag. No, I don't think that this is his only shot. Shanahan's good. He's built something up there.
It's hard to keep getting back here, man. Like, look at the Eagles.
Well, you just need to
Everybody
trade
wrote
for-
the Eagles in.
Trade for Pat Mahomes and you'll be fine, right?
Yeah, I'm sure Kansas City's going to just willingly give him up for anything.
I don't know. If Kansas City has to move on from Andy Reid, then maybe Kyle Shanahan can go take that gig, right? I'm just kidding.
That would be a knife in the back for Niner fans.
Joe Montana 2.0 head coaching style.
Ooh.
That would be hard. No, I don't think this is Shanahan's only shot. I understand that this is the NFL, as I was just saying, the league of parity. However, if you got good enough players that are amazing enough from year to year, which, I mean, Brock Purdy's really good. He's still young. People still aren't sold on him yet. But that offense, we know what they are. And as long as they can keep those guys together, and I do believe they've got 2 more seasons of a cheap Brock Purdy, then yeah, they've got another shot.
All right, there's NFL Zig or Zag. We do it every Wednesday at 6:45. Loaded second hour of the radio program. A lot to discuss. Eric Eager of Sumer Sports will join us at 7:30. Dirt and Sprague, hour 2 on the Odyssey app, the Fan, and YouTube.
Swag back with you for my friends at Les Schwab Tires.
right, welcome back in. Our numero dos here on the Fan. 1080 AM, 99.5 HD2, the Odyssey app, and YouTube.com/1080 The Fan. We'd like to remind you that you can reach the show at the Vancouver Ford text line, 503-864-6326. They treat you right before, during, and after the sale. Visit them for more information at vancouverford.com. And don't forget, if you're interested, we'd like to invite you to play in our first Fan Winter Golf Classic out at X Golf Tualatin or Vancouver, Tuesday, February 27th. It's a threesome. You have noon round or 4 p.m. round to choose from. Danny and Dusty and Isaac and Suk will be live at both locations, Tualatin and Vancouver. Winning threesome gets invited to our Fan Golf Classic in the summer. The biggest loser will get free lessons at X Golf. There'll be food for golfers from Victor Rico's and Pro Catering. All golfers will play the historic Pebble Beach course on the state-of-the-art simulator. Go to 1080thefan.com for more details. We got Eric Eager. I'm eagerly awaiting to talk to Eric.
Dad jokes galore.
At 7:30, he runs Sumer Sports with Thomas Dimitrov, the former GM of the Atlanta Falcons, famously the GM of the team that blew the 28-3 lead. And the OC of that team seems to get more blame for that loss than anybody else connected to it.
Huh.
Isn't that weird? I am biased in some ways. I'm telling you I'm biased. I always found that a little odd, how it was only Kyle Shanahan's fault. You know, Dan Quinn was coaching that defense, right?
And the players themselves on the field, like, come on. It's like, if they called the correct plays, the players wouldn't have given up a huge lead.
Why is he throwing the football? He scored 28 points on the Patriots. You know, that seems like it's a decent amount to win the football game. Maybe the defense shouldn't. Anyways, I digress. The OC of that team, now the head coach of the Niners, seems to get all the blame for that. But Eric Eager's going to join us at 7:30. Is Andy Reid done? Is something I want to talk about. There's a story at ESPN with people in his life saying, I don't know about that, man. I don't know. He was asked and he said, well, today's not the day. And when I heard that, I was like, I know how you said that. And that can still mean that after Sunday, it's the time. But I'm with you largely. We'll talk about Andy Reid coming up. Did this coach leave a team in worse shape? We'll talk about that in this hour as well. But let's start with the bummer news. Shaden Sharp needing surgery. And the timeline for his return with the abdominal strain surgery. This is something similar. I'm not going to speak to the nature. Is it similar to Dame's? Is it like less than? They didn't say out for the year. The timeline is kind of open-ended.
Reevaluation after the procedure.
Yeah, well, they also they were talking about amping him up and getting him ready. And then as they announced yesterday during the workout and build-up, he re-aggravated. So surgery's the option for him. The 7th pick in the draft 2 years ago, has not played in quite some time. What sucks is when you go through this and one of the pieces that's really important to the future doesn't play. And I don't know if he's coming back this year. Again, open-ended. But Schultze, a big bummer to learn and discover yesterday that he was going to need surgery and he's going to miss at least significant time. He was invited to that rising, rookie. I don't even know what they call it anymore. Is it the rookie all-star game? Rising Stars.
I don't even know. It used to be the Rising Stars.
The format's weird now. There's like 4 groups of them. The NBA All-Star is getting it's still dumber by the year.
Panini Rising Stars.
Yeah, but it's a different format, like 4 different teams or something. Anyways, he's not going to play in that. Scoot will. Bummer news. Shaden Sharp out for an extended period. He's going to have surgery on his abdominal injury.
Yeah, for the Blazers, obviously, in a year that they're just trying to, it would seem, evaluate talent. These are the games where you want Shaden to get 30, 35 minutes, and you just see what he does over the course of 60 to 80 games, right? So I think in that regard, definitely sucks from the Blazers front office perspective. I know Chauncey isn't really trying to win every game, but there are times you can see that he is trying to put the best roster out there, and they are trying to be competitive.
He's playing the vets a lot in these crunch time moments.
Yeah.
I disagree with you. I think he is trying to win games.
Really? Not every single game, but when it becomes obvious that they can win, I do think he tries.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
If they're within a striking distance,
yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting.
To me, striking distance is within 16. That's what the NBA is now.
Oh, yeah.
When we were young, 16 was in the start of the fourth quarter. I know, the Blazer-Laker game. Outside of that, largely the fourth quarter, you're down 16. The game's over. Everybody's shooting bad twos, and threes weren't valued the way that they are now. And so that game's over. Well, not so much anymore. You're still in it. I think Chauncey still does want to win it. But isn't that the part of this process that sucks? It's like not only Shaden can't play, you're supposed to evaluate this. These are organizational decisions, Schultze, that changes the trajectory of all of it. And he's not playing. I'm just brought up his game log now. I want to see his last game because he's been out so long. Yeah, he's been out since January 11th. He played against Oklahoma City. That was that 62-point drubbing that they took in OKC.
Essentially, you got to give more minutes to Kamara and Rupert, which are good young guys to see, but you want Shaden out there during this season for as many minutes as possible.
He was playing 36, 37, 31, 32, depending on what you want to do there, and then it dropped to 24/7. I think that's when it was a nagging injury is what happened.
Yeah.
And then eventually the buildup was just so bad that he's like, I can't play anymore. I remember those last couple games. I don't know, man. The deadline's tomorrow. I don't know if they're going to make a move. Maybe they will. Maybe they will trade Malcolm Brogdon. I saw a quote yesterday, and I forget who I saw it from, so apologies, but I saw a quote from Malcolm where it might have been hold all, and Malcolm was like, I'm not focused on the trade. I just want to play basketball. I want to be in Portland. Like, he really seems like a guy that likes just kind of being low-key, playing ball with some good dudes, just vibing, kind of hooping. I don't know if they're going to trade him, but this is the element of rebuilds that nobody can account for. You can't put into the math, hey, we're going to lose one of the more critical pieces for a very long time. And when if this is it for him, if Shaden is done for the year, how are you evaluating the season just as a fan? Has this been a success to you? He's averaging 16 points, 5 boards, 3 assists, 40% shooting, and for the year from 3-point, you would have to go look it up because I'm on the game log. From 3, he is shooting 35%. How do you evaluate this? He's also played 32 games. 32 in an 82-game season. He's 50 games shy of where the season's going to be potentially if he is out for the year. And again, he might not be. But if this is it for him, like, how do you evaluate that? It's hard for us. It's got to be, in a way, it's got to be kind of even harder for Joe. Not that he's in some panic mode to make a real drastic decision on anything for next year in regards to Shaden, but it changes a little bit of the calculus, I think, when you lose a guy for 50 games in a season.
Well, yeah, trying to evaluate a young player as well as missing 50 games. I mean, you can't like sneeze at the fact that development, for 50 games is gone. He's still 20, 21 years old. This is a really important time of his career. And, as far as the games played, like, I get it. Like, these guys, I preface this by saying that I've seen, like, Wesley Matthews' feet after a game. I've seen these guys putting it all out on the court. 82 games in a season in an NBA game over and over and over. That's tough. That's not going like to your rec court at the whatever gym on the weekends and playing 2 pickup games. Like, these guys are professional athletes. They leave it when they have to go out there and put their bodies on the line. They do. But you wonder if there's going to be some concerns starting to pop up that were here in Rip City maybe a decade and a half ago is, can this team keep these rosters healthy? I understand.
Yeah.
Like, ding-ups happen. Little things across the season that you're gonna get dinged up here and there. You're gonna have a pulled muscle. There's gonna be things that keep you from being 100% and playing 82 games. But you should be shooting for 70. I mean, I understand that there's this whole debate over what Tyrese Halliburton was recently saying.
Well, it's the 65-game threshold for bonuses.
And saying that that's stupid. However, you don't get a chance as a young player to be evaluated if you're not playing that many games. So it's not even just the awards. It's really making sure that your team can actually put a product out there. And so, once again, I'm not trying to just bag on all these players saying, well, you should be playing injured. I understand the effort that it takes, but you wonder, core injuries repeatedly. Dame had a core injury last year that he needed surgery on. Shaden's having an injury this year.
2 years ago. Yeah.
Excuse me, 2 years ago. My bad. But you just wonder, with the Blazers not being healthy nearly at all this season, minus like 2 games. Robert Williams went out earlier in the year. I do go back and you look at the mishandling of Greg Oden way long ago, giving him inserts in his foot in his shoe when he really didn't need them, and that difference in the height in his legs actually wasn't a big deal until the Blazers made it a big deal. Like, Portland doesn't have a history of handling injuries well, so I do at some point start to get skeptical and wonder what the hell is going on, why any of these guys can't play more than 40 games.
Yeah, well, to all that, I mean, they have a different medical staff entirely from that era. I don't think there's a correlation. I think it's just luck. I mean, that's just kind of what it is.
They've got some of the worst luck.
Yeah, they do. I mean, somebody pointed out, I think the last time they were in the finals, the Bushwhackers were the tag team champions of the world for the WWF, and we was even the WWE.
Yeah.
It's been a long time, which is certainly why people, I think, in this market, Schultz, say, wake me when they're good. But what I'll say to that, though, is this is the part of it that's this is the part that's challenging. Is you can say to yourself, well, we're not going to. Danny says this a lot. They don't want to be the process Sixers. That's fine. I don't want to be the process Sixers either. You know, that's not the only bad franchise, though, right? Like, it's not like the Kings were the process Sixers every year. And that's kind of been my point on the rebuild is you can certainly build it up properly. You can evaluate talent. You can put the right pieces together. This thing can get geared in the right direction. But I also like there's not like this. There's an in between playoff, and then contender, playoff team, play-in team, not great, not consistent, good team, and process Sixers. There's a few steps in between these. And so, like, you might not be the process Sixers. You could also be the Sacramento Kings, the Minnesota Timberwolves. It's not every year these teams are winning just 10 games. Like, there's seasons where the Kings were barely missing the playoffs, or they're winning like 39 or 42. And
look at the Pelicans resurgence.
Sure, right. But what I'm saying is, like, just as many people that say, well, they're not the process Sixers, they could be a playoff team. Yeah, well, there's also examples of teams that just could not piece it together, whether that's injury, bad decision-making, what have you. That is also in the cards here. And I think it's just easy to dismiss, but, well, it's a rebuild. They're not going to win right away. Okay, cool. And then you go year 4, year 5, year 6. At what point does it become enough with the excuse-making, the youth, etc.? And I don't think it's the easiest to navigate the waters of a rebuild. And this Shaden injury is kind of one of them. This is a key figure or a key position and player of your franchise going forward. If he doesn't play the rest of the year, he missed 50 games this year. That's huge for evaluation. So they're in a tough spot right now in that front office. And yeah, I'm not saying there's pressure. I'm just saying, like, it's got to be difficult to evaluate everything they have to evaluate, and now you've got this injury, unfortunately, to have to deal with. Let's pivot back to the NFL. Is Andy Reid going to be done? Are we ready for this? Is this a possibility? Next on Fan. minutes, I was texting with one of Dirt's buddies, and he was just telling me how close it's been to Mahomes having more than what he has. I mean, if D Ford's not lined up wrong, they beat the Patriots. I think most people probably pick the Chiefs to win that one. And then I text, and if his offensive line isn't banged to hell, I'm picking them to beat Tampa. Like it's that thin a margin. It's that small a gap between him having maybe 3 on Sunday to him maybe having like 4 and 5. And like that's what greatness does. And part of that greatness is having good leadership. Andy Reid's an interesting one to me. He's got to be one of the highest approval ratings of a coach in the NFL, if not the highest. I mean, who hates Andy Reid? Why do you hate Andy Reid? Unless you're anti-cheeseburger, I don't know why anybody would hate Andy Reid. He's fun. He's jolly. He's got a great mustache. He's fantastic on those TV commercials. I mean, his mustache was frozen solid during that playoff game. I don't know if that was sweat or if those were boogers, but that mustache was icy. And Andy Reid's got this kind of thing around him right now where it's a little noisy of what is he going to do? Well, there's an ESPN story out of people very close in his life, one of them being the general manager, saying there's no indication that he's done. He has a quote in here where he goes to his beach house in California during the offseason right before training camp, and he basically says, some people read novels. I watch football plays. And every day he spends 2 hours watching film, coming up with concepts, etc. He's just obsessed with football. Football is Andy Reid's life. He went to Italy last summer, and somebody said, well, what'd you do there? He's like, I ate my way from the south to the north. Like, Andy Reid finds things to do, but nobody can quite lock him down on doing something non-football. Football is just who he is. And I keep wondering, despite this article, and he was asked at the media session, hey, is this it? And he says, well, today's not the day. I hope he stays. I think he's fun to have in the NFL. I also am not going to be shocked if he does retire. It's loud for a reason. And maybe it's just loud because he's older and, this is kind of the natural question we ask these coaches of a certain age, Schultze. But the noise seems to be, no. But it's almost like, well, then why is it noisy at all? If it was no doubt he's coming back, I find it interesting that the questions are asked, that people are writing articles about it. It has a little bit of a, could he be riding off into the sunset after this game if they win?
I mean, you wonder why the initial questions are being raised. You always think, well, are agents throwing some rumors out there? Do they want negotiating power?
He doesn't need exactly. He is the Chiefs. He doesn't need that.
Yeah, who's going to go hire him and pay him more money and give him a better situation in the NFL? Nobody. So that's out.
He will retire a Chief when or if ever he does, unless he gets desperate at 74 to want to keep coaching.
Yeah,
he will retire a Chief. It's just like the Chiefs are not. He doesn't need to leverage the Chiefs. The Chiefs have given him everything for this.
And I mean, then you start to say, well, what else could it be? There's age. He's 65. He'll be 66 in March. There's, of course, the two recent guys, 72 and 73, Bill Belichick and Pete Carroll, that, kind of got put out to pasture because they're getting older.
Jobless, yeah.
Yeah, Reid's not there yet, but you do start to at least hear some rumblings as guys get into their mid to late 60s, I feel like, in the NFL, especially now in the age where, we're hiring the Mike McDonalds. We're hiring all these, young
the McVays, the Shanahans, et cetera, the McDaniels, yeah.
Exactly. Young 30s, young, maybe 40 at this point. Like, that almost seems old. So it's not surprising to me that maybe just because of the age he was in Philly for, I think, like 14 years. This is his 11th or 12th year in Kansas City. Been coaching in the NFL for the last 25. At some point, there are questions out there that are worthy to be asked. Like, hey, are you thinking about it? Do you want to ride off into the sunset on top? Like John Elway? Do you want to try and just, like
Bill Cowher did it.
Exactly.
Won it with the Steelers in 05 in Detroit. Jerome Bettis is from Detroit. Hadn't heard that.
The bus.
And he won in 05. That was it for him. And then in comes Mike Tomlin. So, not every coach gets... I mean, Belichick... You think Belichick wanted to end the Patriot run that way?
No, they tore the jersey off of him, essentially.
Here's the difference, though. Belichick had an aging quarterback.
Yeah.
And while many people question Tom Brady... It still kind of felt like, 20 years, it's an awful long time for that to go. It's interesting where they're at, Mahomes and Reid. I think somebody had said Mahomes is 28 on the YouTube chat. 27, 28. I don't know whatever he's
Yeah, I incorrectly said 26.
Okay, that's fine. But he's not even 30 yet.
No.
It's kind of like a perfect balance where Reid is older and veteran and a little more laid back, and he allows Patrick Mahomes to be Patrick Mahomes. Like, he's got a great working relationship with his quarterback. Belichick didn't want to end that way. Very rarely do coaches get to go out on top. And I'm not saying that he's going to retire. Again, the noise is largely pointing to no, he's still got a lot of football in him. But it wouldn't be the most shocking thing to me, given that there is some noise, if that's what he ultimately decides to do if they win on Sunday.
Do you think there are ever similar questions about Andy Reid that there are about Bill Belichick? Because you see all the quotes on social media, at least, not really from the national media, just from keyboard warriors that say, well, Bill wouldn't have won without Tom Brady. He'd be nothing without that quarterback.
Well, but, yeah.
Are people going to say the same thing about Andy Reid?
Well, I don't think it's not really an important thing to debate, and people talk about it, but it's not important to me.
Okay.
A great coach is a great coach because he also has a great quarterback or an all-time team. Joe Gibbs is maybe the most underrated, given that he won 3 different Super Bowls with 3 different starting quarterbacks. That's an amazing feat that I would be willing to wager we don't see again. None of that matters to me. What matters is, when does he hang him up? How does he decide to do it? Does he go out on top? All of that stuff is sitting here looming, but he's got a quarterback who's 28. He doesn't have to rush that decision, nor does it feel like he will. The other thing he has over Belichick, and we'll go here because we got Eric Eager, he is growing and evolving with the game.
Mm-hmm.
And Belichick's a good defensive mind, no doubt. His staff kept being the same. It was like, I'm bringing Bill O'Brien back. I want Josh McDaniels. Joe Judge, come on down. Matt Patricia, it was the same cronies. And none of that was working. But he refused to get off it. Reid at least surrounds himself with a younger, good staff. I mean, God, look at Spags, right? And he's got Patrick Mahomes. So I just think they're aging differently because there's circumstance in the way that they decide to do it. You're going to have to hold the take you got.
Just tiny. If I'm Andy Reid, I am starting to look at Bill Belichick. I'm starting to see that in my sights. Like, I could catch that.
It's hard. I don't think I'm thinking about that. I think I'm just like, I got Patrick Mahomes. This is awesome. Eric Eager, Sumer Sports, joins us. What do the numbers say about this matchup? Next on The Fan.
This is a Super Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update is brought to you by LaRog Brothers. Guys, score big with extra savings before the big game at LaRog this Sunday from 11 to 3, LaRog.com. First on The Fan, the Portland Trailblazers announcing Shaden Sharp's going to have to undergo surgery on his core later this week. A timetable for his return will be determined after the procedure. Portland does have another off day today before hosting the NBA worst Detroit Pistons tomorrow night. In the NFL, The Ringer reporting that the Seattle Seahawks have officially interviewed UCLA head coach Chip Kelly to be their next offensive coordinator. Former Husky OC Ryan Grubb has also been linked to the job. Elsewhere, the LA Chargers hiring Jesse Minter to be their next defensive coordinator. He spent the last 2 seasons at Michigan under new head coach Jim Harbaugh. According to NFL Network, the team is also finalizing a deal to hire Greg Roman as their next offensive coordinator. He last worked for the Ravens in 2022. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. The playoffs, the big game. Watch and wager on all the action at Spirit Mountain Casino. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
You're invited to play in the first annual Fan Winter Golf Classic at X Golf Tualatin and X Golf Vancouver. Sign your threesome up at 1080thefan.com.
In order
visit the insiders that are covering the stories you've heard about and some you haven't.
How'd you do that? Actually, I'm not even mad. It's amazing.
The Daily Ticker with Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
All right, let's go to Vegas and talk to our good friend Eric Eager of Sumer Sports. It's analytically based. It is great information, some of the best you're going to find out there. Eric is on Twitter at Eric Eager with an underscore at the end. Give him a follow on Twitter. Check out sumersports.com. Their Super Bowl preview just came out. Eric, good morning. Was this the matchup you were hoping for going into conference championship weekend?
Well, my preseason Super Bowl pick was Bills-Lions, so obviously I would have loved to see the Lions make it. They've, going from 32 years without winning even a playoff game to making the Super Bowl would have been a treat for their fans, but Chiefs are, they're the dynasty right now. This kind of feels like that last Patriots Super Bowl in 2018 where they kind of slept-walked all year, but in the playoffs they kind of did what the LeBron Cavs do, which is like overperform their regular season metrics. And this Niners team has been the best team in the NFC the entire season, and so I think they're deserving of being here, even though they took a circuitous route through Green Bay and Detroit. Let
me ask you, because we've had you on going back to your PFF days, and Sumer Sports has been awesome since you started it up. For such a numbers guy, and you guys really dive into it, Sumer Sports, I'm curious, not to say the term irrelevant, but like the numbers are the numbers. But Patrick Mahomes has to make a lot of analytics like, well, yeah, this is the other team, but they have Mahomes. I just wonder how you balance the analytics versus what Patrick Mahomes just in general himself means to a game, whether numbers back it up or not, what Mahomes is versus what numbers say.
Yeah, it's crazy. The weirdest stat going into this week is in the regular season, Brock Purdy averaged 9.9 yards a pass attempt, which is the best we've seen since Kurt Warner in 2000 for a regular starter. The Patrick Mahomes is 7.0. So whenever Brock Purdy throws a pass and Patrick Mahomes throws a pass, it's 3 more yards per play this year. And yet we get to the playoffs, and I think if this game was played in the regular season, the Niners would be favored by a touchdown, 6 points, 7 points, and yet we see this game painted at about 2.5 throughout the marketplace. And some of that is the Chiefs, figuring out the penalty problem, the turnover problem over the course of the postseason, the Niners looking a little bit weaker. But some of that is just people are hesitant to go up against Patrick Mahomes in the betting markets. They're hesitant to go up against him, sort of in general, and a lot. And he's given us ample, reasons to do so. I mean, 14 interceptions in the regular season, career high. He hasn't even thrown, whether you look at PFF or any other vendor, he hasn't even thrown an interceptable pass in the postseason.
Jeez Louise. That's an unbelievable stat. Eric Eager, our guest here, sumersports.com, on Twitter at Eric Eager _. Okay, there's a million stats. I don't want to just pin you to one. I know you look at all of them. Is there one, though, statistic and metric between the teams that is standing out for you, and who is it for? Who is the lean on that analytic?
Yeah, that one is one. I think the other one is the Chiefs have 2 players who have more than 500 yards receiving in the regular season. That's Kelsey and that's Rice. A couple, statistical anomalies there in their offense. Isaiah Pacheco has the most Chiefs rushing yards since 2017. Rashee Rice has the most receiving yards of any Andy Reid rookie ever, all the way back to Philadelphia. And Travis Kelce missed 1,000 yards. It was a weird year for the Chiefs offense, and yet they've been able to coalesce during this postseason. I think that is, again, when you think about statistics that kind of paint a picture of how weird this game is, it's the fact that nothing really went right for the Chiefs offensively all season. Yet, it looked kind of old hat the last 3 games.
That Chiefs defense is getting a lot of talk. Spags has been awesome. That defense is largely what's led them to this point. I know Mahomes has been really good in the playoffs, as you mentioned, hasn't even thrown an interceptable ball. But the defense is getting a lot of the attention this year, and I believe rightfully so. What is the matchup for San Francisco offense versus that Chiefs defense that you would say that's the weakness of the Kansas City defense? This is the area that San Francisco has to try to expose.
It's just the run game. And that was, the crazy part about the Ravens, right? If the Ravens would have just stuck to running the football to their running backs, I think on conference championship weekend, they probably would have won. The Chiefs, are bottom half of the league team in any rushing statistic against. That's the kind of defense they play. They're a team that gives up a decent amount of first downs, about league average in terms of success, in terms of series success, but they're second in points allowed, meaning they're allowing teams to run the football on them until they get bored and try to throw on them. And then they're too good defensively in the back end to give up too many passing plays. And so if the Niners, they have a ton of advantages, whether you look at, inside zone runs. The Chiefs are one of the worst defenses against them. The Niners are great at them with the Shanahan stuff. But, this is also the mystique of Mahomes. Like, teams look at him and they want to make their quarterback into him in those matchups, and it always screws them over in the end because these other teams get to these positions because they leverage their quarterback in ways that are different than Mahomes.
Why do you think the Ravens abandoned it so quick? That threw me off. I'm not as you're one of the best minds I think in analytics right now. I don't know nearly the amount of information with the numbers as you do, but like, I'm watching as a football fan, I'm like, really? 6 total carries for 2 running backs for the number 1 rushing offense in football? Why do you think the Ravens were bumped off of a game plan so quickly?
It kind of reminded me of the 2010 Super Bowl where Bruce Arians was trying to put Big Ben in the Hall of Fame and, ran plays to accentuate him as opposed to be efficient and win football games. They got behind too quickly, and much like the Ravens did. I thought there were times when he asked Lamar to do too much in the passing game, and I get that. Like, you pay Lamar over $50 million a year. You want him to exercise some of those demons, not only win the win-loss record, but also in the aesthetic record. But you're not going to get by the Chiefs playing anything less than optimal. So to me, it was a huge head scratcher. They were never down by more than 10. Like, you should never get out of your game plan in those situations. But they looked like they abandoned it immediately, which is crazy given that they had, a big run to Edwards, a big run to Lamar himself in the design game. Early in the game, it wasn't that they were ineffective. They just went away from it.
Do you have a side on this game, or is it still one of those, like, the numbers versus, like, what you've seen and what you know about Mahomes? Like, do you have a side that you're picking on this one yet, or are you still waiting on a prediction here?
I think if you want to bet side or total in the Super Bowl, it's tough because the numbers are baked in. And I said, if this game was played, 6 weeks ago, Niners are 6-point favorites, so you're clearly not getting a necessarily huge value on the Chiefs unless you think that Mahomes overcomes all of that. But, good luck betting against Mahomes in the playoffs. He's never really, he's only lost 1 game in regulation in postseason history. So that's tough to do. I like under 47.5. The Chiefs games have all been, played slow pace, teams having 8 or 9 possessions. And, the Chiefs have kind of covered up their turnover problems over the past, few weeks on offense, and they don't generate a ton on defense. They only had 8 interceptions all regular season. So I think the Chiefs defense is good in a way that's conducive to unders, and I think the 49ers offense is going to play into that a little bit by running the football into that and churning clock.
So are you taking Chiefs? You taking Niners?
If I had to, I would wait because I think a lot of sharp people, the people that the markets respect, are going to take San Francisco. So if you like the Chiefs, which I do as a fan of the team, I think you wait right until kickoff to take them because I don't think you're going to get a better number than then.
Eric, I know you're busy. You got another hit coming up here in just a couple minutes. We appreciate the time. I'll just say, and I'll let you go, as you mentioned being a Chiefs fan, I'm a Niner fan, and like I've been telling everybody all week, I'm miserable. And when they're like, why? Your team's in the Super Bowl. I'm like, yeah, and Patrick Mahomes is in the way. Again, my only saving grace is, well, it feels like most of America outside of the big bettors that you mentioned, it feels like everybody's taking the Chiefs. Every time I see a preview piece, it's like, our 9 pundits pick, and it's 7 of the 9 are picking the Chiefs. It's my only saving grace at this point because Patrick Mahomes truly is a nightmare.
Yeah, the Niners are a great team, though. So I think that this will be a great matchup, and the Niners are favored for a reason. I'll say that.
Well, you're doing great work, man. I appreciate the time. I know you're super busy, so thanks for hopping on with us in Portland. We always appreciate it. Keep up the great work with Sumer Sports, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Hey, thanks for having me. Take care.
All right, there we go. Eric Eager, good friend of the show, VP of Sumer Sports, sumersports.com, SUMER sports.com. Very analytically driven website, but it does break down how the numbers stack up in this matchup. So good stuff from him. Tyler Fulgham will join us from ESPN Bet at the top of the hour, get his picks and prop picks. What color Gatorade is he going to gamble on? Some of the trendy picks at ESPN Bet. He'll join us coming up. We have maybe a status story around the corner. We'll see. We'll wait and see on that one. No guarantees, but we might. But coming up next, we'll pivot from the Super Bowl. Did this guy leave the situation worse? Next on The Fan.
Who's stinking it up?
Woo! Do not go in there.
It's time for Who's Stinking It Up, a sports lowlight that's ripped from the headlines.
We couldn't do diddly poo.
Brought to you by Three Mountains Plumbing. Schedule your appointment online at threemountainsplumbing.com.
Raiders, until they are the Las Vegas Raiders, of course, but they'll always for another decade probably still have that great fan base from Oakland. And I love the people from Oakland. I think they deserve to have their team.
Yeah, there's Mayor of Vegas, Carolyn Goodwin. Goodwin or Goodman? Goodman. And we highlighted this yesterday. She's basically telling the A's to piss off. We don't want you, nor do we care about you. Very ugly situation happening. They're lucky the Super Bowl is happening. Otherwise, this would be a bigger story. Who's stinking it up? John Fisher and the A's. Brought to you by Three Mountains Plumbing. Make plumbing and electrical services delightful. Get your time back. Let the pros tackle whatever projects you need completed. Schedule an appointment online. Three Mountains Plumbing. That's threemountainsplumbing.com. Hey, everybody, Sprague here. You know those pesky issues that pop up around your home? I'm talking drain. possibly sadder story is around the corner. I wanted to get to this story today. I like to visit Reddit pages of college football fans from time to time. And the check-in on Michigan is funny. It's all great. We won the title. We beat Ohio State again. Look at us. Get out of here, Alabama. Piss off, Washington. Michigan. Big Blue. Harbaugh's left, and he's left with quite a bit. He has basically gutted that entire coaching staff. He brought the DC mentor with him now, is going to be the DC of the Chargers. And there was a comment that went viral on one of the message boards, and it was like, okay, Jim, just stop. And I think it's a fair question to ask. I heard this about a week ago, and then more people have left. The portal's been, massive for him. And a host in Detroit was saying, did he leave the program in worse shape than when he got it? I know that seems insane considering how good he was at Michigan, despite not beating Urban Meyer and Ohio State for the first couple years. But that program, I'm not saying they're going to drop and not win more than 8 games. I also wouldn't be shocked if they won like 8 games next year. I'm wondering if Jim Harbaugh, the guy who said, I don't know, but when I die, make sure you call me a Michigan man. Certainly not leaving Michigan in the greatest of spots after leaving for the NFL.
Well, he won a national championship.
So that just, I that's obviously the biggest thing that every major fan base wants. But when you do it and then you gut it, it's a weird spot to be in, is it not? To like celebrate a title and a team that was great and came back, and then next year's team you look and you go, I don't know what we're gonna do. I don't know how good we're gonna be. Like.
Who cares? You just won a title.
You just don't care. You don't think they care?
I mean,
they already care. They just won like a month ago, and they're like, hey, man, this sucks.
But there is, I think, a kind of coming to realization of, okay, you know what? We did just win as Michigan fans. Yes, it sucks that there's turnover, but that's what happens when you're successful. I think of the Deion Sanders speech to his Jackson State football players, when he was leaving for the Colorado job.
Sure.
You either get fired or you're moving up in this business. You're either, when you're succeeding, you're getting elevated to the next job. And this was the next job for Jim Harbaugh, back to the NFL to see if he can change Justin Herbert into a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Now, that doesn't mean that he left Michigan in a worse spot after winning a title. If they didn't win this year, if they put it all on the table, left their chips out, went all in, and they showed a straight and the other one showed a flush, yeah, you know what? That sucks. And no, they wouldn't have left the best spot, or they wouldn't have left the university in the best spot, Harbaugh and all those other coaches, basically leaving Sharon Moore to pick up the pieces. But I do think after the title, that kind of cures all those issues, kind of heals all those little scratches and wounds you're going to get afterwards very quickly, because you just won a freaking title.
I know. And Schultze, you have a little logic that you're saying, but I'm going to tell you, college football fans are largely miserable.
You're right, because I am a mostly miserable Ducks fan. You're not wrong.
Like you like Lanning. The recruiting's great. You like what you see offensively from either Dillingham or Stein. You
Love
got
everything.
a quarter. Yeah. But if you don't get to the Big Ten title game,
I still want to pull my hair out.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like you're living college, and you're not alone here. College football fan largely is just always miserable. And winning a title is different than just getting to the playoff. I certainly recognize it. But if they win like 8 games next year, that title you're referencing, it's going to feel like a distant memory to some of those diehards. And not that needs to be the norm, nor should it be the norm. I think people should enjoy their lives a little more and not take every single year as if like, a non-title season means it was a complete and abject failure. I think a lot of logical Michigan fans exist. There's also a lot of insane people who are looking to be miserable. And yes, they won the title, but give them 3 months when they look at the recruiting class, they look at the departures, they look at the coaching staff. Sharon Moore beat Ohio State. He was the coach of that team. I don't know how confident people are about Sharon Moore for an entire season of Big Ten football.
It's fair.
And beating Urban Meyer again, who quite clearly the collective at Ohio State and Ryan Day, they got the memo. Stack it up. We need all of the good players, and we need all of the good players to come back. It's just, for such a Michigan man, he really gutted the Michigan program. And I'll be curious to see how it gets built back up, considering how successful they were 2 years ago, getting to the playoff, and then last year finally breaking through and winning it.
Roster turnover is a thing too, man. And when you got coaching changes, they are now allowed to transfer out. So any good player that's left, you kind of wonder, well, all right, am I buying into Sharon? I'm not sure that that's a question, but there's probably a couple of key guys.
A couple games is great. He was fun.
Exactly.
But now you've got a full season. What are you as a recruiter? What is your philosophy? How are you going to replace Minter on defense? Who the hell is our quarter? These are questions that everybody is already asking. They just won the title. But that's what the sport breeds, year-round recruiting and NIL and all of the portal. This is what it becomes, constantly looking at the next thing to be miserable at instead of enjoying the thing you just won. We have a lot to get into in the final hour here. We kick it off. Tyler Fulgham of ESPN Bet, ESPN.com. He joins us the final hour, Dirt and Sprague, on 1080 The Fan.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with
they get more comfortable and get into the game, and ultimately that will fall short, and Chiefs will hold on and win with their defense. So that's the game script that I'm building, and then I fill in the chapters of that. Like I said, Chiefs building an early lead. That means in the second half, Isaiah Pacheco is running the football more. In the second half, Brock Purdy is throwing the football more, and I start betting props based on that. Some Pacheco overs, some Brock Purdy overs. Maybe he throws a pick because he's dropping back more. Deebo Samuel goes over. Deebo Samuel scores a touchdown. Brandon Ayuk scores a touchdown through the air. That's how I start building a portfolio of all the different bets I'd make, not just in the Super Bowl, but in any football game.
Tyler Fulgham, our guest here, ESPN Bet. You can find him on Twitter at Tyler_Fulgham. He's joining us now. Super Bowl is on Sunday, and he's got all of the numbers. So you start diving into props. What is your favorite prop right now? There's some popular props. I believe Kelsey scoring a touchdown is even money. I was kind of surprised by that. Seems like kind of a no-brainer bet to take, because if anybody's going to score on the Chiefs, he seems like the guy that's going to do it, even if they don't score that many points. What's the prop you like the most so far? Yeah, it's actually one of the according to ESPN Bet, the Kelsey on the no touchdown is one of the sharpest bets that ESPN Bet is getting. So obviously they know accounts, they know who's making these bets, and a lot of the sharp bettors, the respected bettors, the winners, are actually thinking the great value is a Kelsey not to score a touchdown, and that makes sense because so much of the public is going to say, of course Kelsey's going to score a touchdown. I'm like, I doesn't score touchdowns. It's Taylor Swift is at the game. He's going to play awesome. He's got Patrick Mahomes. So one of my favorite bets is actually Brock Purdy under 1.5 passing touchdowns. You can get that at ESPN Bet at +105. Purdy is obviously new to the Super Bowl. I think he's going to have some first half jitters. And although he's got great weapons to throw to, like Kittle, like Ayuk, like Deebo Samuel, the Chiefs' pass defense has been incredible this year, guys. They've played 20 games, and only 4 quarterbacks have thrown 2 or more touchdowns in a game against them. 4 out of 20. And they've played Josh Allen a couple times, Lamar Jackson. They played some really great quarterbacks. Of course, Justin Herbert, they see. So Brock Purdy under 1.5 passing touchdowns, +105 is one of my favorite bets in the prop market. Why do you like the Chiefs in this game? Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, the great defense. Those are 3 things that I think can neutralize the strengths of the San Francisco 49ers. I think Brock Purdy is going to, at least in the first quarter, first few drives, first few series, he's going to struggle compared to Patrick Mahomes, who's been there before, who's done that, who's played in the stadium, multiple times, a member of the AFC West. He goes to Allegiant Stadium all the time. He's comfortable with that environment. He's obviously comfortable with the Super Bowl environment. So I think the Chiefs build a lead early because of the difference between Mahomes and Purdy and their experience. And then I think in the second half, the Chiefs lean on their defense, which has been phenomenal all season long, and holding off any attempt to come back by an objectively explosive 49ers offense. Tyler Fulgham, our guest here, ESPN Bet. They get ready for a big game against Kansas City and San Francisco on Sunday. Do you dive into the weird props like the passing yards and touchdowns and reception yards? Do you dive into Gatorade color, coin toss, national anthem over-unders, Taylor Swift being proposed to? How many times Taylor Swift is referenced on the TV? Do you get into the kind of the wackier, weird, fun prop bets that really football has nothing to do with? Yeah, I don't bet them, but certainly love to talk about them on our show, ESPN Bet Live, because I know there's a lot of viewers out there who that's what they want to bet on. They don't care how many times Brock Purdy drops back to pass or how many yards Patrick Mahomes has. They want to know the color of the Gatorade. They want to know how long the national anthem is. They want to know heads or tails for the coin toss. They want to know what color jacket Taylor Swift comes to the game in and how many times she's referenced on the CBS broadcast. So that's definitely something I like talking about, not something I particularly am going to bet, but certainly it's definitely fun to discuss. Let's talk MVP. Is this as simple as it was when I asked you why Chiefs and you're like Mahomes, Reid, great defense. And Tyler, as many numbers as people look at, I think that's what it basically boils down. You could show me EPA rate and you can show me red zone conversion rate. Mm-hmm. Nobody really cares. It just seems like you're either taking the Niners because you're a fan of the Niners or you want to go against the public, even though they're the favorite. They're like a favorite underdog, which is a weird position to be in. Yeah, exactly. Whereas everybody else is just yeah. I'm going to say for the MVP, I'm glad you brought that up because
I think that's a great way to bet on who wins the game. Like, for instance, I think the Chiefs are going to win the game. So rather than just taking the Chiefs on the money line, I'm going to make my Chiefs pick be Patrick Mahomes to win the MVP at plus 130. Because my handicap here is, what are the chances that the Chiefs win the game and it's not Patrick Mahomes that's deemed as the biggest reason why? I think and that's 30 extra cents per dollar that you get back in return if you just bet Mahomes to win the MVP as opposed to the Chiefs winning the game. Now, again, you're assuming a little bit of risk because Travis Kelce could win the MVP. Maybe a defensive player, who knows? But I think in 95% of the outcomes where the Chiefs win the game, it's because Patrick Mahomes was Patrick Mahomes. So I'm going to, instead of just taking the Chiefs plus 100 money line, I'm going to bet Mahomes as the MVP at plus 130 because I expect the Chiefs to win, and that's a way to get a little more juice out of the bet, so to speak. Whereas, again, if I like the 49ers on the other side, bet Christian McCaffrey at plus 450 to win the MVP. Because what are the chances that CMC doesn't have a couple of touchdowns and the Niners are able to keep up with or win this game? So I'm glad you brought out that MVP market because that's a different way, assuming a little bit of a risk, to get more out of your bet by figuring who's going to be the biggest reason why this team wins. And for me, it'd be Mahomes on the Chiefs side, it'd be Christian McCaffrey on the Niners side.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there, Ty. I think that's kind of that's the right perspective. You can certainly bet your team if one of these teams is your team, and I'm going to be rooting for the Niners in the game. So that's an automatic, like, who's the MVP? Purdy certainly could surprise people. If you want to take a long shot on Debo, go ahead. I'm going to take the guy who gets the ball the most and is kind of the most efficient. I got two more questions for you. We'll get you out of here on this. The first one is, how did you do last year in the Super Bowl with your bets? Did you have the right read on the game, or did something bite you?
No, I had a good year last year. I thought it'd be a high scoring game. I liked the Chiefs. I played daily fantasy on DraftKings, and I had a very good showdown slate that won me a tournament there against some friends that I play. So I had a good year last year. I'm hoping this year is the same. I don't think it's going to be as high scoring. I think it's going to be lower scoring in comparison. So that, of course, makes it a little harder to find those props and more unders as opposed to overs. But last year was good, and I'm hoping to back it up this year.
Get you out of here on this one, Tyler, because we appreciate the time, and I know you're doing a lot of hits right now. ESPN Bet just launched, and you're doing a great job with ESPN and ESPN Bet. Let me ask you, when all's said and done, how do you think this is going to boil out? Give me a score, and is Purdy going to throw a game-losing interception? How is this going to go? Do you think this is a Chief dominant win? How you overall feel the game's going to go?
Yeah. 24-22, Chiefs win. So the Chiefs win and cover their money line. That goes under the total. The total's 47.5. 24-22 would be under, as that's only 46 points. I think the Chiefs have a 24-6 or 24-14 type of lead, something like that, 24-13 type of lead, whatever. And there's a late score by the Niners that gets them to 24-22. I'll have to work on the math on how I got there. And then the onside kick comes. The Chiefs recover it. Patrick Mahomes kneels it out 3 times and they win.
All right, there we go. Tyler Fulgham, ESPN Bet. Catch him on Twitter. Catch him on ESPN Bet Live. Tyler, thanks for the time out here in Portland, man. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Good luck on your bets. And hopefully we can catch up with you soon.
Sounds good.
All right, there we go. Tyler Fulgham, ESPN Bet, joining us with some of the read and thoughts that he has on this matchup. He likes the Chiefs. He likes the under. He's not going to overthink the room here. He's going to take the obvious MVP pick. And, pretty easy Kansas City lean for him. Doesn't participate in the wacky, weird prop bets. But he certainly has a perspective that if you like the Chiefs, and obviously most of America does, even with a small spread, I think Schultz, his thought is, well, if I like the Chiefs, why not just take most of these Chief props? The Pachecos, the Kelce's, the MVP, Mahomes, Chief money line. Like you might as well just tie a lot of these into a parlay if you're so heavy on the Chiefs.
I mean, I've been playing Travis Kelce anytime touchdowns all season like they're going out of style.
ESPN.com's on that to score a touchdown. It's even money.
Yeah,
like exactly. I was surprised to read that. I feel like that should be minus money because if they're scoring, it's hard to see very many players on that team scoring the tutty.
No, and I do love people. I've seen a lot of tweets out there being like, oh, not just Travis Kelce anytime, but first touchdown, which I think is like plus 700 or 800.
Yeah, that's when you get to start getting some value, is that first touchdown being scored.
But then people are thinking, oh, maybe Rashee Rice, who's plus 1,100, offers better value.
Yeah.
So looking at these numbers, yeah, I think Kelce anytime touchdown would be the bet that I'm going with. But you're right. I kind of want to do like not even just like a 3-way, but like a 4 or 5-way parlay of just Chiefs different props.
Shocking. Schultz, who likes to go to strip joints while he's in on a 5-way. I'm stunned to find this out. We have a lot to get to on the radio program. We're back with more Dirt and Sprague on The Fan.
The Herd with Colin Cowherd.
We get these emails where we get these offers for the interviews, and it's Super Bowl week, man. I'm in. I'll talk to as many people. It doesn't have to be gambling related. It could be analytically driven gambling, football, football stuff. I'm all in. What does kind of suck about those interviews that were offered via email, and we appreciate Tyler Fulgham's availability to us. The only thing that sucks is they get put on these business lines. So like a handler calls us and is like, I have Tyler Fulgham ready to go, and then patches him in. And so like there's this weird delay thing that happens. And as a host, you can kind of pick it up. I think as even a listener, you can pick it up pretty quickly. But as a host, you can be like, oh, he's hearing me 2 seconds later. And so there's this awkward silence between question and answer. We appreciate, again, Tyler Fulgham's availability, but it's always a little bit of a dicey role there. Schulte has a short and leaking confidence version of Stat or Story we're going to get to in a second. Swag forgot to throw into a text like, yo, it's Wednesday. Don't forget Stat or Story. So we'll get to that in a second. But I wanted to throw at you. Did you see, Schulte? I don't know if you saw this. Had a listener earlier asked if I had watched a news piece done on this topic. $23.1 billion expected to be gambled on the Super Bowl by America.
Oh, my God.
$23.1 billion.
I mean, I can't say I'm surprised.
I also would just say this, and I'm not in any way telling you how to spend your money, but what I find interesting is sometimes I see these like reports, 20 billion to solve homelessness. And then I see like 2 weeks later, 23.1 billion gambled on a football game where most people are going to lose their money. And I'm like, well, we can certainly fix things if we want, but gambling on the game it's become massive. It's always been a big deal.
Yeah.
But as more and more states pass legislation to allow a DraftKings to exist in their state as we have, you get more people that are interested. There was a listener earlier. It was like, hey, did you see the 60 Minutes piece on these young 20-somethings that gamble and they've become addicted? And some of these guys have to get dumb phones, not smartphones, so they could like get out of the gambling life. They're finding young students are using financial aid money to gamble. $23.1 billion on the Super Bowl, and almost all of us are going to lose the money we gamble on. Do you have a limit? Do you have an amount you're planning to gamble on the Super Bowl?
Probably $75.
You're going to load 75 in the account if it's not there already?
Yeah, it's not, because I've lost my season. What I usually do at the beginning of each football season, so college and NFL, so the end of August, early September, usually I'll throw $200 to $250 in, and I try to live on that for the entire season.
Yeah.
I did really well through January, and then as I lamented to you guys, I tried to put all my money. I did not practice bankroll management. I put all my money on that under of the Bills-Chiefs game that ended up being moved. So no, I did not hit that. Lost basically my entire bankroll. So I'm gonna throw another 75 in there because I don't want to lose a bunch, but I do consider that a donation at this point. And $21.8 billion of what are most likely to be donations.
Oh yeah, the books are going to clean house.
You might give one or two of that back, right? Depending on the odds.
Well, I what's interesting is every conversation, and I don't even mean it this way. I know we do talk a lot of gambling on the show. We Sprague the Line every Friday at 8:30. Like, we have fun with it. We've always, I'm out loud and proud. I got a small unit. I'm telling you straight up, my unit is tiny. I'm a $6-7 better. Sometimes I go heavy. I will go heavy on some games. I put a sizable amount on that Bills-Chiefs game, and I'm an idiot, and I went against Mahomes, and he took all my money because I'm a moron.
Well, your unit should only be 1% to 3% of your overall bankroll anyway.
Well, but a lot of people also have the belief when you gamble in sports that, scared money don't make money. You gotta have some juice, and I certainly understand, and all the math checks out on it. What I find interesting is how regular conversation is kind of morphed around it. Mm-hmm. Not that I'm not interested. I am. There are things I'm interested in. But we had Eric Eager on earlier, and Eric does a lot of hits with gambling-centric shows, so I don't fault him for this. But if you just say hey, do you have a side that you're leaning? That's lingo in the gambling world, baby.
Yeah.
Is that Chiefs +2 or Niners -2? That's how he hears that. And that's how a lot of people hear it. But I was generally just asking, like, is there a team? You almost have to change your language in a way because it becomes so gambling-centric for so many people now.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't matter who's going to win. It's who are you fading and who are you following.
Yeah, like, hey, it was the over-under number. Oh, it's dropping. And it's certainly changed the way the game's covered. I mean, it's funny to think about the NFL and how Tony Romo couldn't do a gambling-sponsored fantasy football event because how dare you incorporate gambling? They're having the Super Bowl like 7 years later. It's in Las Vegas, Nevada. So I find all of it just the way it's evolving and the narratives around. It's so taboo. Offshore. You have to go get this check from somebody in Venezuela. You have a bookie. And now it's like, I open my phone and I gamble. Like, it went from don't do it to we're all, not all, but the proverbial all of us are doing it. And now it's in Vegas this year, $23.1 billion set to be gambled by a lot of studies on just one football game. Color of Gatorade, coin flips.
It's one of my favorite bets.
Are you a wacky bettor?
I'm a wacky prop bettor.
A prop bettor that likes going in on some of that stuff that nobody can predict unless you DM a player and say, hey, what color is it?
That's true. It is the Gatorade. You really have to have the inside player scoop, but also
the Chiefs won it last time, and it wasn't anything to do with their colors. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I feel like it was a blue. And we didn't even know it because they had cut away from the Gatorade bath on Reid.
Yeah, you didn't see it live.
And so people had to go find still images taken from different angles that we didn't get on TV right away. I remember, I think it was last year that happened. It was like for 20 minutes, nobody knew if they cashed their Gatorade ticket.
Yeah, and also one of my favorite ones is the length of the national anthem. I believe Reba McEntire is singing it this year, and they go over-under.
Is she the national anthem? They have like three, like Post Malone, Reba McEntire, and R&B singers escaping my mind.
I mean, I know Usher is the halftime show guy.
Yeah, and that's another one. You can sometimes gamble. What's the first song?
Yeah, or are they going to do a medley or that kind of thing? But I've sang the national anthem at many different local venues.
You have?
Yes.
Wow.
Different baseball games. I mean, I was the MC for the Hillsborough Hops, so I was kind of there whenever someone didn't show up to do the anthem.
Swag's job?
No, I was basically their Todd Bosma.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So kind of, on the field, hey, everybody look at these kids. I'm playing a game in between the innings.
It's time for the wieners. Run around third.
Yeah, on your mark, you get set, go. Yeah,
who's the biggest wiener?
I am.
Brought to you by our hot dog vendor who supplies us with wieners.
That is exactly what I did.
Okay.
Almost to a T.
Schulte the MC. How about that?
Did that for 3 or 4 years. So I love to, the over-under on the anthem, something that I feel like I can kind of nail down a little bit. You just got to go find a couple of recordings. But you know what? I thought I was right one year, still lost my money. So it doesn't matter. Even if you study, even if you think you've got an inside track to it, like, guess what, guys? It's just a donation. Just consider it that.
Let's get to your stat or story. You said you have 2 stats or stories to get to here. Let's just do the 2.
Should I just play the music?
Well, you can't. Yeah. Go ahead. Pot it up.
There we go.
Oh, what is this?
This is the stat or story music.
I don't believe this is it, Art, but that's okay. It's a Schulte stat or story.
No, this is my stat or story.
That's the attitude. You needed that swagger going into the segment. I will let you know, Schulte going into the segment, leaking confidence. I was like, do you got a stat or story? And he's like, I kind of have 2, sort of. So let's see your leaking confidence stat or story here, Schulte.
I think it's pretty good. And I love this music, by the way. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Rest in peace, Regis Philbin.
Regis Philbin.
Is that your final answer? No, it's not.
You remember the guy that won it and was so confident he knew the answer to win $1 million? He called his dad just to say, Dad, I won $1 million.
Well, that was kind of an easy question looking back. It was because if you don't know what we're talking about, it was the first ever winner of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I think his name was John. I can't remember his last name.
He rolled through that game. No problem.
No problem. And then the final $1 million question, how far is the Earth away from the sun? I'm pretty sure it's 93 million miles, and they just had different, like,
you think that's easy?
93 miles, 93 million.
You think most people could answer that question correctly?
I don't think most people could, but I think that if you are somebody that craves answers, and it's called an infovore, somebody that seeks out
trivia stuff.
Yeah, seeks out knowledge, needs the answer for everything. You will remember that. And that guy was smart and obviously had a lot of knowledge.
All right, what's your first stat or story?
All right, your first number is 40. Your first number is 40. Is it the number of points that Anthony Edwards had and the T-Wolves lost to the Bulls last night? Or is it the number of years that a wallet was returned to its owner after being lost? The number is 40.
I watched a little bit of the Wolves Bulls game. He had 31. I'm going to say, this would be a great story. Stat.
You were close. You were going to say story, and then you went stat. It is actually story.
How many did he finish with?
He finished with 38.
Yeah, okay.
He was so close to 40. 38, though, was his final number. Bulls ended up beating the Timberwolves. But 40 years, the number of years a wallet was returned to its owner after being lost. This is in Ontario, Canada. A wallet lost for 40 years returned to a family after being found in an air duct at a storage facility. Check this out. Andrew Medley of Detroit was working in a storage unit in Toronto when he found a wallet in an air duct. He was with a colleague at the time. They opened it up thinking it was a couple of years old, but they were shocked to see not only the actual dates in the wallet on things like IDs, a couple of bills with old dates on them, but how well everything was preserved. He went on to message the owner on Facebook after finding the name of the person in the wallet and sent messages to their daughter. The daughter of the wallet owner ended up getting it back 40 years later.
That'd be wild to get a message. Hey, I have your wallet from 40 years ago. I'd be like, what?
So it's 2024 now. 1984 would be.
Wasn't even alive.
That's crazy.
Wasn't even alive. What's the next one?
All right, next.
That's a good story.
Or story. I appreciate it. Your next stat or story number is 60. Your next stat or story number is 60. Is it the number of points Jalen Green and Pascal Siakam combined for in the Pacers' 132-129 win over the Rockets last night? They're on separate teams, but both top scorers.
Sure.
Or is it the number of consecutive hours a gamer spent playing World of Warcraft to break a world
Number
record?
60, you said?
The number is 60.
I have a hard time. I mean, this is where I get it wrong and I dirt it, but I'm going to go story again. I think you storied me twice. I don't know what the math would say about the odds of two players combining on an even number quite like that. I'm going to go story.
You are right. The story choice here was correct. The combination of Jalen Green and Pascal Siakam was only 59 points. The Pacers ended up beating the Rockets 132-129 last night. Those guys combined for 59. But a world record, actually two, were recently broken from a dedicated gamer in Hungary who played World of Warcraft for a consecutive 59 hours and 20 minutes straight.
Jeez.
Breaking two Guinness World Records in the process by 23 hours and 31 minutes. Oh my God, I don't know how you could play for that long without wanting to kill yourself.
Well, you like to play video games, first of all.
60 hours.
Yeah, you know,
60.
This is cool. I'll give you a better world record that should get more notoriety because I just watched a movie about it on Netflix.
Okay.
Naiad. There is a lady and her first name is Naiad, which is like some correlation of meant to be in the water.
Okay.
She swam from Cuba to Florida, and it's a fantastic story. She was in the ocean 58 straight hours. She swam. 58 straight hours of swimming in the ocean, by the way.
How do you fight that?
Currents and waves, and in that area, they got sharks that like routinely bite and kill people because there's a creature here. It could be a seal. She did all of that. She tried it 6 times. She finally succeeded. Delirious as hell. Oh, yeah. Physically spent, definitely. More impressive than sitting on your ass and playing video games for 60 straight hours. I'll say that. Good stat or story. A nice little short version.
I appreciate you.
Stat or story. Great job, Schultze. Coming up next, does this interest you at all? Because it doesn't me, and I'm loud and proud about it. Next on The Fan.
This is a Super Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
Now, Report from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. A Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update is brought to you by LaRogue Brothers Jewelers. Guys, score big with extra savings before the big game at LaRogue's this Sunday from 11 to 3, LaRogue.com. First on The Fan, the Trailblazers announcing that Shaden Sharp is going to have to undergo surgery on his core this week. A timetable for his return will be determined after the procedure. Portland does have another off day before hosting the NBA worst Detroit Pistons tomorrow night. In the NFL, The Ringer is reporting that the Seattle Seahawks have officially interviewed UCLA head coach Chip Kelly to be their next offensive coordinator. Former Husky OC Ryan Grubb has also been linked to the job. Elsewhere, the Los Angeles Chargers hiring Jesse Minter to be their next defensive coordinator. He spent the last 2 years at Michigan under new head coach Jim Harbaugh. According to the NFL Network, the team also finalizing a deal to hire Greg Roman as their next offensive coordinator. He last worked for the Ravens in 2022. And in baseball, the Houston Astros signing second baseman Jose Altuve to a 5-year, $125 million extension. The 33-year-old was set to become a free agent at the end of 2024. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schultze from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. The playoffs, the big game. Watch and wager on all the action at Spirit Mountain Casino. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
Live, local, and free. No subscription required. Portland's sports leader is 1080 The Fan.
Hey, it's Souk. Vulcan Design and Construction helped me turn my backyard into a true outdoor living space.
All right, welcome back in. Something we've talked about a couple times throughout the years is the advancement of streaming services. There's a lot of people that, cut the cable cord, cut the satellite. I'm going to stream. I did this years ago. I did YouTube TV. I loved it.
Get rid of those fees.
Yeah. And as time has gone on, we have learned, and I'll give Jeff Russ his flowers on this. I think he nailed it. He said years and years ago, oh, you're going to do streaming, huh? You're going to basically do cable is what you're doing. And they have now gotten to the point where I think anybody streaming, not everybody, but a lot of people will Peacock, Netflix, Paramount Plus, ESPN Plus, all that stuff. When you account for it all, it's cable price is what it is. And ESPN, Fox, Disney announcing they're going to partner and create a sports streaming platform. And the reaction to this, Turner, I believe, is in this, and we also have TNT, ESPN, Fox. You can get most of the games. It should be noted. Peacock is not a part of this, so you won't get that stuff. Paramount Plus, CBS, I think, is a separate thing as well. It seems in theory like, hey, this could be a good thing for sports fans. And I saw this and I kind of chuckled because I had YouTube TV. I still claim that if you like YouTube TV, stick with it. It's good. My thing was I couldn't get Blazer games. I have cable. I've had cable for a couple years now. Loud and proud about it because everybody else is basically getting cable at this point, unless you find your ways to stream things without subscribing to them, if you catch my drift. I'm a cable subscriber.
Yeah.
I like to have the channels. I don't want to worry about missing anything. And I just find it funny that a big announcement. We're creating cable, but we're calling it streaming. And you also had Oregon State and some Washington State people react to this and go, oh, look at that. Streaming is the way of the future. I see it. I hear it. But I would also counter, it's not the same thing than what you were going to get into with Apple. Yeah. Apple offers no linear exposure. There was no equivalent on TV, whereas you can stream this, but you can get those apps on your TV too. Also, cable will still be a thing for Fox, for ESPN. That's not going to get cut and go away. So I know Oregon State fan was kind of stepping up here and getting loud about UW or whoever. I would argue it's not the same thing, and the money you were going to make per year was still atrocious. This is more on the commissioner and all the presidents to not find better solutions for it. And it was ultimately doomed at the start. So this owning the Pac-12 presidents who left, I don't really think that's the correlation at all. I just find it funny that, they create more ways to basically make you get cable. They just don't call it cable. I have cable. I'm never worried about any of this, but I know not everybody's sitting in that same position. But it does seem like it's basically, hey, we have cable. Yeah. We're calling it streaming, but it's cable.
Well, the whole reason that we all started to drop this stuff in the first place was because, gosh, it wasn't just the regional sports fees. It was the equipment fees. It was the modem rental, the box rental for 4 different rooms in your house.
I saw from our buddy Bart Winkler in Milwaukee was also the deals. They offer these great pricing deals, but the calendar was all mixed up.
Exactly.
So wait, how much am I paying now? And I've had that a couple of times.
And then after a year, you get that new, we just got this bill in the mail where, our internet, our nice little promotional rate expired, and we're now paying full rate, so I got to call
Comcast. It went $50 up, right?
Yeah,
right.
I got to negotiate that all over again.
It's a nightmare, no doubt.
Yeah. So that's kind of the reason, the streaming thing looks very attractive, plus no ads, at least at the start. But now, as Jeff Rust has very dutifully pointed out correctly, we are seeing basically a circle back around of pretty much every streaming service now offering an ad tier and an ad-free tier that you have to pay more for.
Prime Video is doing this. It's hey, once upon a time you had Prime, you just got to watch, and now it's well, you want no commercials, Prime Plus. It's way to get to another $4.99 out of me.
Netflix did that 6 months ago. They finally added commercials to the bottom tier of their thing. So we're starting to see all those fees kind of be added into the cost of the current streaming services. So that sucks. But I'm not as down on this as you are, Sprague. And
what do you mean? I'm not down on it.
Down on it? You seemed down on it as far as people not wanting to pay for another option for streaming. So am I incorrect?
Well, I have cable. you're just going to end up paying a cable price. If you are indeed all in on buying, not everybody is. Some people will only get certain streaming things, and some people say, well, I only care about this sport, so I only have this. And to those people, God bless you. But for the masses that watch TV, you're basically paying a cable price.
It's not that as much as it is paying for access for everything in one spot. And if I as a sports
I
fan,
have that now, and I have cable. I can turn on my Comcast remote and say Netflix, and Netflix pops up on my TV.
But if I could go and I see what ESPN is trying to do here, I'm not trying to be a businessman for them, but as a consumer, I like this option. If I can go on my phone or on my tablet or wherever I'm at onto ESPN.com to go look at scores, to go look at stuff like I normally would, any of the stories for the day, I can click on any of the games from right there and just watch it immediately. We're not talking about just where these are available, like games to watch. We're talking about how you can access them. So as opposed to, I get it. It's all a one-stop shop if you've got 200 channels with all the games on.
At home, accessing is easier for me than most.
Exactly. But if and this is the way that it's going to be at home and on the road as well, if I'm looking at an app like ESPN, all the scores are up and you see... I see DirecTV and Xfinity trying to implement this like scoreboard technology into their live game watches. That's what ESPN's offering here. And this deal with, I can't believe.
Well, we don't know the price, do we? I didn't see a price yesterday.
No, there is no price yet. The price, the service is going to be determined, but what they are offering here, and it's fascinating to me that they could partner up with Warner Brothers and Fox to make this happen, is ease, simplicity of access. And I am all for that. Now,
how is cable not easily accessible for you?
No, it is, but as I'm saying, it's just a different accessibility. We're talking about going in and traditionally searching through a guide of channels as opposed to looking at a section of box scores on ESPN.com, and I can go click from any game that I'm looking at a box score for.
Comcast offers that. They show you box scores and real-time scores. You can just click the game.
But can you watch all of them? And that's what I'm saying. Can you watch them from that screen? Can you go click into that screen and do it? You have to go to 3 or 4 or 5 different menu choices as opposed to what ESPN's doing. It's just right on the front page.
That is not at all what cable is now. Cable is much easier. Now, where I will say cable is failing, you can't stream unless you're on your home Wi-Fi.
That's bullshit.
The Xfinity stream option it's ungodly. It's ungodly. It's disgusting. It is. That was the benefit of a YouTube TV is I could watch that at my nephew's football games and not miss anything and just have it on my phone. I can't do that now with Comcast. Fair. The Xfinity stream is only accessible via the home Wi-Fi, but the home experience is super easy. Also, I like scrolling. I like the guide. I memorize the channels that I watch. I don't have a problem finding the access. I know where League Pass is. I know what section my extra innings baseball Atlanta Braves package is. It's pretty. I think it's easier in a lot of ways at home. It's on the road and in different places that it becomes the accessibility is a problem. And that's where I think, Schultze, what you're talking about, that's where it has the one-up. But we don't know the price of this yet.
Exactly.
I'd be stunned if this is under $50.
Oh, it's probably going to be
for all the access to all of those, with all those networks. I would be surprised if it was that.
What did Root Sports' fee just go up almost $20 for our local consumers to keep Blazers and Mariners and Kraken games on?
Yeah.
So it's not going to be cheap.
The Blazers are on the 3rd channel of Root most nights.
Yeah, Root Sports Plus Plus.
Yeah, it's it's not Root. It ain't Root Sports Plus. It's Root Sports Plus Plus. And I'm like, it's an NBA team, and they're on the 3rd channel of a regional network. It's unbelievable how that happens.
Probably the worst team on that regional network right now.
The Mariners exist.
Hey, they won 54% of their games, baby.
That's all you need to do to win a World Series. You watch out. Wrap it up. Coming up next on The Fan.
It's on 1080 The Fan.
Hey, a couple thoughts. Somebody said when I had Comcast, I could not watch games outside of my home. I cut the cord and never went back. I responded. Blows my mind, the Xfinity stream and how terrible it is.
I can't believe that they don't allow you outside of your Wi-Fi. No. Like the geolocation fencing for them.
It's nuts.
Like,
it's come on. It's 2024. What are we doing?
DirecTV does not do that to me.
Yeah, I've never been a satellite guy.
My dad has it, so I kind of, when I need to, fill the gaps in, I'll use his login, and it's amazing.
I took one off of my house this summer because the previous owner had a couple on there, and one was on the side, and I had to take it off.
Old satellites are always fun.
They should be mandated to have to come remove and patch those holes off your house. Like, you pay a lot of money for that service. If it's done, they should have to be the ones to come out and take that off and patch those holes. That's all I'll say on that.
You would think.
A couple thoughts coming in on Fubo TV. My brother-in-law is Fubo, and I've heard nothing and seen great things. It seems like Fubo TV is kick-ass. I'm not anti-streaming. I subscribe to a lot of streaming apps as well. My cable, my like entertainment bill, it's dumb. It's dumb. I don't even want to add up how much I'm spending because of how dumb it is. So I've heard good things about Fubo. Somebody said, ironically, right in the middle of the segment, my internet decided to cut out. All the more indication I should just stick with cable.
Yeah, that is the advantage of cable. You've got that signal right into the wall. Even if your Wi-Fi goes out, you would still be able to watch TV because of that cable that is always sending that signal.
Look, there's pros and cons, I think, to both of it. I'm an old school guy. Like, hearing you say out loud, and you got to scroll to find the channel. Dude, one of the coolest things about me as a dad to my children right now, I know all the channels. Dad, where's Disney? 741. What are we doing? Dad, where's that channel that plays all the Christmas movies in December? Freeform, 739. Come, what are we doing? What's the league pass? 3,054. Come on. Stop playing games. Because I had to do that as a kid. I memorized everything.
But now you can just go click on a movie title screen.
Oh, dude, come on.
There's
Look,
so many better options.
I know you're pro stream over cable, and that's fine. You're not wrong in some ways. You got to admit, the guiding of it is dumb. It's not as clean and easy as cable.
I do miss the succinctness of the old
one button, there it is. Guide. Scroll down. Oh, a curmudgeon-y old fuddy-duddy show today was starting off being anti-Apple Vision and saying, we need cable forever. I want to scroll the channels. Now, that's going to do it for us. Schultze's in tomorrow. Swag will be back on Friday. And we have a lot to dive into. It's a day before the trade deadline. A couple things in college football catching my eye. NFL draft stuff. Some more audio from the Super Bowl we didn't get to today. We'll bring it back tomorrow. That's going to do it for us. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bright and early, Dirt and Sprague on Portland Sports Leader, 1080 The Fan.
I'm Trisha Crick with BetQL. It's Super Bowl week, and I'm here to give you some betting insights.